So welcome everyone. We are going to watch Waterline. I've got Skada Hurt with me in the studio. If you're watching this later on YouTube, obviously we'd love to have you here for the live show as well. We're recording this live on Twitch at twitch.tv/ClydePlaysLive. Certainly welcome you to come over and join and see how the other half lives over on Twitch. But hey, if you're YouTube only, I get it. I was YouTube only for many years, and that's why this video is also here. So we're going to provide that content to you. Skada, this is the Waterline video, and Wargaming puts one of these out every now and again to talk about what they're going to do next to kind of give us kind of a roadmap of what's going on. Have you watched this at all? Do you have any concept of what's inside it?
No,
I know there's been some chatter on the Discord. Sorry, go ahead.
No, people were asking on the Discord, oh, you guys are going to talk about this for 6 hours. And I was like, I don't think so. I don't know what's in there. And then I thought some of it was, I thought it was more like what we normally do lately, where it's like, oh, here's the test things, you know, a few days before when they do the news article. I wasn't really cogging that it was like a Waterline thing. So I thought it was like that. And I was like, nah, it's too late for me to talk about new test stuff. Like, we're past the point on that. But this is something different. So I said, hey, you want to do this? And then you're like, it's an hour long. And I was like, oh my God, does it make any sense for us to even do this? Like,
and I was like, I don't know, because they're doing a new format here. It's a little, this feels like they're in a little studio. We'll show it here in a minute. I watched like the first 2 minutes. They're in like a little studio.
Weird chairs. Where do you get chairs like this?
Eastern Europe. And they've got like a whole podcast thing going on. Everyone who's on the couch here at the beginning, I had the opportunity to meet in Belgrade. You guys know Chrysantos, and then the other folks are on there. We'll talk a little bit about, I think, what I can about that. Some of that stuff's still under NDA, but we can talk about, like, you know, the experience of going over there if that becomes relevant. If it's not, then we'll focus on the content of the video, which might be more likely, honestly. Yeah. Okay. So chat, we've got your comments. I've got you right up here on a small monitor above my main monitor. So I'll try to watch for those. Skada, at any point, just hit me up and we can hit pause. But I think we get started and see where this goes. Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
More back to the roots, more historical events, more historical modes.
More content, more mechanics, more ships. Just go at full speed with no limits directly to your target.
So that's our philosophy. It touches almost every corner of the game.
You forgot the most important thing.
It will be a new type of a gameplay.
You want vampirism? You'll have it. You want super speed, hyper speed.
Hold on for a second there. We haven't gotten too far.
Vampirism?
The one gal there, the one that's in the denim dress, is she Italian? What's at the hand purse? She had a real strong hand purse going there. Okay.
At least I don't believe she's Italian.
Right off the bat, I get strong Italian vibes there, doing the hand motions when she spoke.
Listen, as another person who talks with his hands constantly, like, I'm going to give everyone as much leeway as they need there. You've seen me give presentations at work and stuff.
I don't ever see you do that. I would love it at work if you got up there and you were like, hey, everybody, let me talk to you about these things.
Let the talk to. I don't do those necessarily, but I definitely use my hands a lot when I'm talking. So it's definitely interesting. So this guy who's on the screen right here is involved with, you'll hear him talk, and when he introduces himself in a minute, he'll talk a little bit about performance and stuff of ships, and he's part of our balance team. So he's definitely got a hand in some of the, when we get those blog articles every once in a while. I can't remember his name. They say it here in a minute, but he's involved with helping to bring the buffs and
subtitles. For the subtitles, he's all about super hyper speed.
Yeah, I don't know what any of this is about. He said the word vampirism, and I'm like, what?
Is this for World of Warships, or
I think it's a Diablo game where we're gonna get the destroyer of the leech, where it sucks life points from the enemy. All right, let's keep going.
You can have
Oh my God. The ships will be removed.
Yes, the ships will be removed.
What does that mean? I have some ideas, but I'll wait. Wick says, question, when did you hear about all this? The CCs were shown this a little while back. We did get a chance to preview this information. I won't go into a ton of details there because I'm not sure what the rules are on that, Wix, but we did get a chance to preview some of the info. I was not available to check out the video, but I have read a summary of it. So there's been some information provided to us so that we can hopefully speak to this a little bit better.
Greetings, captains. Welcome to our Belgrade studio. I'm Tide, and today we're going to talk about the future of World of Warships with our amazing guests. Guys, can you do the introduction?
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Chris. You might know me as Chrysanthus. I'm the regional publishing director for the Warships in Europe. And I'm super happy that we finally get back to providing you with information, what's to come in World of Warships. Slightly different format than we used to do before, more of like an interview style. And, sharing the context and the vision that we have for the game. And this is also why we are more than usual. Our first additional guest that we have today is actually Stacy, who is head of live operations. What does that mean? It's actually the department that brings all of the cool events and activities to the game. And as an extra guest, we also have DMC. DMC.
So real quick, Stacy there, Chris Santos just said, she brings all the cool stuff to the game. Stacy's she's a person who works like with coders and things, and she seems very smart. She's very funny, and she's definitely an important person over at Wargaming when it comes to delivering content to the game. So it's cool that they got her to take some time out of her busy schedule to come and be a part of this video. She's been in other videos before, but yeah, she's kind of like important, which is cool.
Yeah, I've never heard that title.
It's I thought it was an odd title.
Oh, I've Googled it. So I'm looking at different job openings in the live operations, and it's basically kind of a producer. I was trying to figure out if that was like their fake name for monetization, but it doesn't look like it.
No, I think she works with the devs in at least a related capacity.
She's a project lead.
She's like a project lead, right? So not too dissimilar from what I do. In terms of organizing folks who are bringing stuff to reality.
I'll change some stuff at work tomorrow, and you can be the head of live operations for your project.
Thanks, man.
I'll let the people know.
I'm sure the customers would appreciate it. Live operations. Ooh. Anyway, and then they just said this guy's name. His name's DMC. They're going to talk with the guy here on the left.
What is your department working on?
I am a game designer. We work on concepting, designing, implementing new mechanics and ships, and maintaining and improving old ones.
Okay.
So that last line is the part that's kind of important, maintaining and improving old ones. So he's definitely looking at the performance of ships. And like I said, he's a part of the folks that are bringing the buffs and nerfs to us periodically.
Now that we've introduced each other, let's outline the goals for this year.
Yeah, let me catch up on this. So, in general, there are several guidelines that we would like to follow through the
Hold on a second. I might have
all
missed
2025.
The host there said, now that we've introduced each other, we're gonna do the thing here, right?
Yeah.
What did she say she did?
That's a good question. Her name was Autumn Tide. She
just said, "Hi, I'm this person," and I went first, but she didn't say what her job is.
Greetings, captains. Welcome
see.
to our Belgrade studio.
Well, do you know?
I'm Autumn Tide, and today
You're like, I know, but it might be NDA. and
No,
I've
I
heard
don't
this
know.
name.
She is
she just says her name.
she's a player interaction manager. I don't know. She doesn't work with like the CCs or the CMs, at least not in a way that I can see from what I do. But that's a good question.
That's a title.
She just goes right into today. We're going to talk about stuff. So I don't know.
Where's Grigor when I need him?
Grigor's probably still asleep.
Now that we've introduced each other, let's outline the goals for this year.
Yeah, let me catch up on this. So, in general, there are several guidelines that we would like to follow through the all 2025 year, and it reflects in several points. So the first one point is that we would love to give the players more ways to play already existing ships and create new tools to play future ships. And also, in general, we will continue evolving PvP, because this is what we get used to doing, and introducing also new ships with new mechanics. But because we see a lot of excitement regarding PvE and all of stuff around, so we would love to dive more deeper this year into PvE and to basically...
So when they say stuff like new ways to enjoy the ships you already have, that's, we talk about modes, right? New modes, whether it's asymmetrics or whether it's new PvE content. They're talking about PvE right here. From my desk, right? From my vantage point, as a player and as a gamer and as somebody who thinks about World of Warships probably more than I should, I think that's a smart way for them to invest in the game. We already have 700 ships, right? If you make a new mode, it lets us look at each one of those ships in a different way. Now, you're not going to look at all 700 ships, right? But you might look at your say 30 favorite ships and find out which ones make the most sense in this new mode or whatever. So I think that's a smart thing for them to be investing in, especially with the popularity of what we've seen from the changes to PVE, the higher tier operations and all that stuff. They're not always successful with this stuff, in history, but I think that that's a good thing for them to be investing in. Yeah.
I just was listening to her. She said, here's our goals
Mm-hmm.
for 2025. And it was something about like future ships, PVE. It was really, there might be something lost in translation there because it felt like pablum.
Just like just like stuff, not like
yeah. I mean, it was like, oh, okay. So you mean you're gonna keep making the game?
That's kind of what it sounded like. I
don't mean to be the crank on this one, but
no, go ahead.
So maybe it's just because of what we do for a living. But I was just like, what? Like, can you? Yeah.
You and me both spend a lot of time getting people to go, no, go back and say that more specifically. What are you actually going to do? Like, that's a big part
my
of
whole job is, hey, that's really cool, but could you like cut the horse shit and just tell me what you really meant?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that's all I'm hearing there. And maybe that's just my tin ears at this point. But,
yeah, there's some of that, I think. But at the same time, like, they
got an hour, so they may elaborate on it.
I think the rest of the video is about getting more specific. But when they start off with some of those vagaries, like that's going to be areas where we kind of got to be listening between the lines. And so the idea about them delivering, more ways to enjoy your same ships, at least to me and some of the conversations I've had, that to me sounds like more modes, more different ways to experience the same content we already have. And again, if I'm a company, I want to give you guys a lot of ways to enjoy the work I already did, because that turns that work into more time you play, and that means more money for me. That's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just a thing, right? That's the way that the world works.
Alternatively, when I hear more ways to enjoy the ships you already have, I hear them saying, so we're going to take those ships and we're going to rename them and put them under a different country and sell them to you again. We're not going to make new ones. You understand? We're going to kit mash up a bunch of crap, because that's what we're about. Thank you for watching. And then there's going to be like 50 minutes of like ballet playing here next.
It could be. So like, obviously that's a whole thing. We've had this conversation a few times, right? We are going to see more kit bash ships. We are going to see more hulls reused, because you've got three kinds of ships that you can make. I think you can make brand new ships the game has never seen before. It's getting harder with 700 of them in there. You can repurpose things, just like how many Fletchers did they make? 175. Well, they didn't make 175 different kinds of destroyers. So like, there's only so many historical ships to choose from. And so they're going to make historical ships, and that's going to basically mean reusing hulls and things that we have already, with some limited exceptions. And then the third kind of ship is just making shit up, right? Which wargaming does too, to lots of negative fanfare.
That could be the thing they said where they're talking about future ships.
That could be, right? And I think you're going to get a little bit of all three of those, right? You're going to get some new ships every once in a while, but they got to really meter those out. You're going to get a lot of like reusing of current assets and things, because frankly, that's what's left. And then they're going to make some stuff up, and each one of those is going to piss people off in slightly different ways, right? Except for maybe the first one. People like new history.
They could just say we're going to make tier 12 and cruise missiles, and we're going to go into the Cold War era ships.
I would love to see World of Warships 2 Electric Boogaloo come out, but I think that better be a different game, personally.
All right.
Anyway, okay, let's continue.
Work there with more wider experiments. And also, because it's 10th anniversary for our product, we would love to go more back to the roots and introduce more historical events, more historical modes, and basically introduced more various historical themed content in our game through the all year.
I want to pause and hit that, because some of the write-up that I got from Wargaming, which I was told this morning is no longer NDA, something that we always like is historical content. I think the community tends to like that a lot. Historical PvE stuff is liked by not everyone, but a large portion of the people. But historical ships, everybody really digs. They did call that out as a special bullet. They said, we are doing more historical content this year in the write-up. So even if we see it in the video, maybe it feels a little vague in the video. They also went to the effort to write it up for the CCs and say, this is one of the things we're doing. And so I think that's worth noting, because I feel like they said it twice, and that means it's probably more important than something they might have only said either in the write-up or in the video. So that's cool. I'm looking forward to seeing
2024. In 2024, on the development side of things, they sunk an extremely large amount of time into PVE content.
They really did.
They did a lot. That D-Day event that came out in June for D-Day that had 3 operations and a bunch of stuff. They worked on that for a very long time.
That thing was
Likewise,
huge.
the Star Trek stuff they worked on for a very long time, right? And both of those PvE things, right? And so I hear what they're saying here, and they're saying, yeah, we've noticed there's interest in that in PVE content. And then obviously, you know, here we got ASIMs back, and they kept it around for like 2 patches in a row, which, you know, kind of just dragged it along there. And so I think they know there's an interest in that kind of content. I think everybody likes the idea of stuff like that D-Day event.
Yeah, that was
and
cool.
those kind of things. So yeah, I'm hoping they, you know, do a Guadalcanal event or, you know, do those kind of things in PvE. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, and I think the idea of that falls into line to me with the more ways to enjoy the ships you already have kind of content, right? Like the D-Day thing was a new way for me to go play Fiji or whatever, right? Or Atlanta, which was like the ship of the day for that event. So that's cool. And you know, when I think about the events they've made recently, and I look way back into the history of all of the other weird PvE stuff they've made, that D-Day thing was pretty dang good. And there's, you know, if you look back, the stuff that was older was not quite as good, and the stuff that was older now is not quite as. It's like I feel like they're getting better at it. I know Star Trek was grindy, but people like Star Trek too. Even so,
Star Trek thing was so much more like some of the other previous ones that are kind of space based. This one at least just had an IP behind it. The D-Day event, I will say though, was in the time that I've been involved in, especially involved in my little corner of their development hell and test. The D-Day event was way more interesting to me than like the rubber duck.
Yeah, I would play that D-Day thing way more. I know people love duckies, but D-Day was way cooler.
That's like a like, hey, let's go do that one night and go, okay, I had my fill. Like, you know, the D-Day thing, I played that D-Day thing a bunch and all facets of it, even though I had played it a bunch in test already, because I thought it was compelling and I thought I thought it was a good way to engage in the game. I liked it. So I'm all for them doing more historical battle type stuff like that. And I bet that's, you know, maybe hopefully what they're pitching here.
There's some, I hope so too.
We'll see.
Slow but Deadly says the Star Trek mode was grindy. This whole game is grindy. You're totally right. This is a treadmill, Slow but Deadly, and we are jogging on it until we're too tired and we decide to get off. But that's all good. So, all right, let's continue on here.
Okay, and one more topic.
Yes, it is. We didn't forget. We will do severe work this year for sure.
Okay, great. I think Chris can share the general attitude for us this year, how we want to approach things, and how we want to share them with you.
Yes, we wanted to just get across to our player base how we approach things in 2025. Thank you for summarizing generally like the directions that we want to go in. There's one big challenge that we have in general with a game that is now this year, we're celebrating 10 years of World of Warships, which is a fantastic, date. Crazy that it's been for already such a long time. So many of you have been with us all that time. And while we've been adding more content, more mechanics, more ships over all these years, it means that the game became significantly more complex. Not only for a new player who might now enter the game and there's so much to do, but also for a seasoned player who has to keep track of all of the ships, the mechanics that we have, and we still want to bring new ones. So we're changing our approach and how we want to bring these into the game, test them, and verify them. Maybe
I want to pause real quickly here for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you're watching on Twitch, the Streamlabs bot just came on and said, hey, the Golden Barnacles are almost here. I'd ask if you guys have not yet, please go vote for the best ship of 2024. The link is right there in chat. If you're watching on YouTube, I will put the link in the video description down below. The Golden Barnacles are going to be on March 15th here in the United States, and I think March 16th if you cross, if you move too far to the east. So those dates I'll include in the description as well. But please go vote for the best ship of 2024. Let us know what your favorite premium or special ship is that came out. And then another note, just this over the weekend, I was editing a video where I got to interview Chris Santos here when I was in Belgrade. He's a great interview. Chris Santos is a really fun guy to hang out with, and I think you guys are going to see that in the video that I cut together. That'll be coming out, I think, slightly before the Barnacles, kind of as an advertising push to talk about all of the cool ships that came out in 24, the opinions opinions of a bunch of CCs and some of the wargaming guys as well. So if you guys have a chance to watch that, it's probably a few weeks from coming out right now. But just to let you know, Chrysantos is really chill. He's being super subdued here. He's a really funny guy. He laughs a lot. I think you guys know Chrysantos from the official stream back when he was on there as a community manager. But please go vote for the best ship, and let's keep going.
DMC, you can share a bit, how that approach will look like in 2025. What are
Yes. The general thesis is we want to limit them by time. So we introduce some mechanics or specific ships. There will be one global mechanic and several sets of ships. They will be introduced in a certain version and inevitably removed the first time.
Okay, so I wanted we've read about this on the dev blog. If you don't read the dev blog, you might not know about this. So what they're talking about is they're going to release ships that have and introduce new mechanics. They'll be available for a few patches. I think they're going to talk about that in detail here. And then they're going to take those things away. I'm not sure how this is going to go and what the community is going to think. But long story short, you're going to be able to get basically temporary ships with temporary mechanics that'll be added to the game. And we'll be able to basically try them out as a community, and they'll be able to try them out as a company before they commit to those being put into the game in a permanent basis. Pyro in chat says uber gimmick ships. Maybe. I think some of the first ideas that they're trying are kind of interesting, but like, I don't know if this is just for crazy ideas or if it's for all ideas or what, but we are going to see this kind of come into the game. I don't know how well players are going to handle the idea that they will have invested time and probably resources in getting these ships, and then they'll see those ships go away from their account. As players, we like to get things and keep them. We have a hard time with temporary stuff, I think, as a World of Warships community. And so I'm curious how Wargaming is going to navigate that portion of it. So I'm sure they'll share more about it here as we continue on, but I wanted to kind of highlight that a little bit as kind of a thing that's happening. Scott, I don't know if you had any thoughts on that or if you just want to keep listening and see what else they say.
I agree with you on people like to earn a thing, then keep it.
Yes.
People don't like the idea of things of rental things, I think, in the long term. And my understanding from what I saw on this is that there will be a long drawn out grind in these things, that you would start with the tier 8 to get to the 9 to get to the 10, and in the end you get like an award or something, like an account award that says, oh, you did this, and then they take the ships from you. So unless that award is like a golden frog that I can buy any steel ship with, I don't really care to do this grind.
Well, and it depends on what it's going to cost to get into them too. If it's 40,000 credits or something, okay, fine. But like if it's something that takes a lot of time and effort, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if I have to buy this tier 8 to start this pinwheel, then I really am not into it. Like if I have to pay some, and I'm sure you will, they'll be like, oh, you need to give us credits to even get this and blah, blah, blah. But like, no, just whatever. But maybe they'll get to more of it. 3
green free XP boosters. Thanks, Kilo. So anyway, let's we can keep rolling on here, but
sure.
This I think is going to be a part of how we see development happen over the year, and I think I'm watching it from the sidelines. I'm not sure what I think of it yet. I'll say, when I say I'm not sure, it means I don't know if I think this is a good idea or not, but we'll see how it goes.
And we'll do it is in 14.2, and once the version of 14.6 ends, both this mechanic and these ships will be removed.
Let me catch up here regarding why we are doing that, because yes, as you said, we have almost 10-year-old product with a lot of legacy and a lot of stuff that we already produced. And in general, we want to care a little bit more carefully about what we are doing and what we are putting permanently in a game, because as you said, yes, complexity increased over by time. And that's why we want basically give us room, a space where we can just put out mechanics, ships, any other game designer ideas that didn't pass the test of time. And basically, if something was very good, players liked it, we might took it out and maybe reintroduce in the future events or in the future as a permanent part of a game. Overall, this approach will give us opportunity to more specifically check some stuff or generate more interesting various events, with opportunity to go back if it's needed.
Yeah, so
like kind of going on with that, like, and this is one thing Chris Santos said as they introduced this section, which was, we've introduced, the game's been running for 10 years and we've, you know, we don't take things out, we just add things in all the time. And so the game gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And we talk a lot about how, you know, when I started, there was like 80 or 90 ships in the game. It was the Japanese and the US tech trees, and that was it. And today, if you're a new player, you log in and you are eventually, when you finish your first 200 games or whatever, you're just overwhelmed with all of the content, all of the mechanics. We got reload booster, we have combat instructions, we have burst fire. Those are 3 different ways of kind of getting the same effect, right? Which is kind of absurd when you think about it. And I think they're basically kind of going, boy, this is really getting complicated. And at least this is their stated reason for what they're doing here, which is, this is kind of complicated. We want to try some things out. We have some good ideas. We want to try them, but, you know, we don't want to commit to them forever. So I think it'll allow them some more creativity, and it'll also allow them a kill switch for things that maybe is weird. You know, there's things that they've put into the game that are in premium ships that they would have a hard time getting rid of now, mechanics, for example. And I think they're trying to protect themselves a little bit from that. I don't think it's a bad move on their part, but I do think they've got to carefully navigate what this looks like for players and how we experience it in such a way that it adds to our experience and doesn't take away from our experience. I think that's really important for them to keep their eye on. And I think it's tough to work with this community and to handle delicately the things that the community hears and everything. Any thoughts on that, Scott, or resume?
I think I just what she's saying, and I'm not listening now. I'm just reading the YouTube generated subtitles for this. So
Yeah.
like what she's saying is like, so we've got a mechanic and we're gonna throw it into the game for a limited period of time so that y'all can play with that mechanic, and then we're gonna pull it because whatever reason, right? Now, people have seen these ships in game already. I've been playing with this mechanic for a few months, right? So it's been in test for a few months.
These are
What
the
she's
half-dead
describing,
ships and
what
stuff.
she's describing feels a lot like what we do before stuff comes out. But instead, they're going to take it then and go, yeah, but now we're going to do the same thing with the entire community, and we're just going to put something in that's a rental, and we're
Yeah.
going to generate more data on this thing, basically. And they're putting it like in randoms, right? Like this isn't. It'd be one thing if it was like, yeah, we're going to put these in wacky blasto ship mode or whatever they want to call it, right? But they're putting them in the main game, and I'm not sure what they hope to achieve through that data farming, other than I think historically, if you look back I can think of the last 5 years, they've created a thing or a mechanic or a mode. They thought it was going to be the cat's pajamas. It hit live. The community hated it, and it's a wasted effort, right?
Yeah.
I think of like
yeah.
Convoy, ultimately, the original ASIMs when it was PvP.
Right.
You know, things like that where they've sunk time into it, and they may run it past the test groups. Keeping in mind there's multiple test groups, and the one I'm in doesn't always, like, they talk about aircraft carrier stuff. The test group I'm in doesn't look at that stuff. So
Right.
they already have different internal methodologies which how they look at this stuff. But when I hear them say what we're going to do is we're going to put something out, and it's going to be, everybody's going to have access to it for 3 patches, and then we're going to take it away, I don't know what the value add there is.
Yeah.
And the idea, like I said before,
for the player,
like the
you
idea
mean, for the player, right?
yeah, like
I get the
yeah,
value
like,
add for the
hey, we want
company.
you, we're going to give you a thing, and you get to grind a thing in it, and at the end you get a pin. Like, like why do I want to do that? Like,
Yeah.
I want a boat at the end. You have taught me that there are 700 boats, and I'm supposed to get boats for my effort.
The Scooby snack for players is
Right.
new boat, right? And
Yeah,
so,
and so
that's
if
why I say I
me
think there has to be
grinding-
a. Sorry, go ahead.
Me
go ahead.
grinding for you to get some data point about some weird mechanic, and then I get nothing for that. Like, I better understand what I'm getting for that benefits me in my exchange of my time on this planet for you.
Right. Right.
That just seems like they're asking me to log into a job.
Yeah,
don't know.
and so one of you're describing a thing that we see. I mean, you're sharing a message that I think lots of players share, and I think it's valid for us to think about this, right? This is why I talk about, like, they need to be they need to be delicate about how they handle this with players, because it could sound like what you just described. And we have a lot of players who play World Warships, and for them it is transactional. Their relationship with the game, and sometimes that person is even me, or it's you, or it's the people watching the stream right now. We play the game because I play game, I get reward, right? I play game, I get Scooby Snack, as we've been saying, or as I said. And so if the grind is not fun, you know, we kind of sometimes, I think, forget that this is a game and it is supposed to be entertaining. Each battle should be fun. Now, I know that we all logged in and had to play through the Karlsruhe at some point, unless we free XP'd it. I did not find the Karlsruhe fun. I found the Karlsruhe to be work. It was a tier 4 German cruiser, and it is not good. But for some people, that boat might have been fun. And that's the thing, is I think they need to make sure that what we get out of this is some fun experience, right? Like, that's what we should get. The trouble is that I think these things could come out and it could feel like, hey, you're asking me to test your game. Or it could feel like when they launched Super Ships, right? Super Ships came out and people were like, well, that's not fun. And Wargaming was like, no, we made them more powerful. They're fun. Like, they're more than the boats you had. They should be. And the community did not react that way. And so I fear
even when
that
you
they
look
may
at
be
something-
on their way to that same thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, even when you look at something like the Star Trek event, right? So like,
Yeah.
it's a PVE event, people play it. I'm not earning boats for playing that.
Right.
I'm ultimately getting pieces of a collection that in the end, I'm not even going to get to finish the collection without paying you an absorbent amount of money for some dumb thing to finish a dumbly worthless collection. I
did
can't
not
even finish
appreciate
that for free by
yeah.
sinking time into it. But I could trade my time in it for pretty good economic rewards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got some stuff from that, like what'd you get, like free XP and silver or something? I guess it helped grind missions. There was some value add there.
There's some good
I could
grinding.
justify
Yeah,
it.
you could
I could
grind it.
justify doing it, even though the end wasn't something cool. Essentially, what they're saying here is we're going to give you these wackadoo boats, and there's going to be some little grind meter that you're unlocking gray econ bonuses and ugly permanent paints.
It'll be missions, right? It'll be a chain of missions.
You got yourself 10,000
Yeah.
credits. You get a gray
Yeah.
econ booster.
Yeah.
You get a gray ship XP. Oh, this time we're giving you a frosty fur permanent camo. Like, it's going to be that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And in the end of it, I don't get that. The ship's not mine. They take it away. So in that way, that's like a rubber duck event or something. But I'm doing it in randoms. And so,
Right.
like,
So we know what the
this-
rewards are going to be, right?
so do these ships, what I'd be curious about for everybody when they play these, and I don't know if they'll cover that here, but
Yeah.
do these ships look and count as rentals in everybody's account? Thus, then,
Yeah,
if I
that's a
go
good
play
question.
that in randoms, does it not count against my stats?
Oh, geez, that's really interesting. I think I don't want that to be true. I don't want you to get this as though it's a random, because I don't want you to just go in there and potato to grind through some dumb mission to get a reward. But
And
I
it doesn't
also,
count against my stats in random because it's a rental.
that's what I mean. Like, I don't want you to
Right.
know that it doesn't count against your stats, and so you just throw the ship into the meat grinder until you get the stupid Scooby Snack at the end of the mission chain, right? I feel like that would be a bad thing. SFNL says Skada is wise, because Skada's looking at this from the hang on, approach. And I feel like I'm giving Wargaming free advice that they should take. You got to make this shit valuable for people, guys. Yeah, go ahead.
SFNL being a legit dude in the tech industry
Yeah,
with
I
a
was gonna
long
say.
career, like we are you and I are akin to people he's probably worked with in real life, although
Sure.
we're not as fancy. And so, like,
Less fancy.
a lot of this is like, what are we doing here? Like, this is what we started the stream with. Like,
Yeah.
cut through the BS, lady. What are you trying to tell us for real?
Give me the facts.
So-
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, we are 30 minutes into you and me talking and 5 minutes into this video, so let's get
For
rolling.
Christ's sakes.
Well, I guess
Here,
this
I'm
is
gonna-
our
I'm gonna put it on like 1.2 times speed too.
training ground, the ground for experiment.
Yes, but of course we do it in a careful way. And we'll get into the details in terms of
should just go
what
to
we
the
have
article.
actually
Just
mapped
go
out
do what
step
they're
by
gonna
step
talk about
that
in
will
this
happen
video. Just go
throughout,
through the article.
roughly, as you said, from 14.2 until the end of 14.6. Can you describe a bit, maybe starting with the global mechanic that will be introduced, what players can expect from that?
The global mechanic that we'll have in our game is classified documents. People that played the game and the last year, and specifically the D-Day event, are already familiar with it. The gist of it is you have an entity, you equip it to your ship, and you become stronger against another entity. We want to bring this feature back and significantly expand it. Firstly, because it will
Did he
go
just call
out of
that an
D-Day
entity?
and come into...
He did, yeah.
our regular modes. It will come into random battles, a singular season of clan battles, and operations with flagships.
Is it working the same way for all of these different modes, or is there a difference?
No. Of course, there's a difference. There are different things we want to achieve in each mode, and there are different tolerances for disruption in each of these modes. So in random battles, we want these to be more similar to signals or upgrades. In clan battles, they will work differently in that in other modes, you can select the intelligence documents once you enter the battle. So you can choose the opponents for which you target. But in
Okay, so these are, what he just said was super important, and I wanted to make sure I highlighted it. These are mountables that change your ship's performance that you can choose after you log into a battle. He's about to tell us that in clan battles, you have to choose it before. So in random battles, you log in, you see the enemy team, is my read on this, and you can change how your ship is configured using classified documents based on who your enemies are, or maybe who your allies are, if that makes sense. In clan battles, it's part of your clan battle strategy, which you have to establish before you hit the battle button. I think this is interesting. They just said, hey, the game's gotten really complex. We wouldn't want to make it too complex. And then this to me seems like a complexity thing. I like it as a veteran of the game for 9+ years, but I do worry a little bit that this is a complexity thing. And hopefully they've got a way to introduce this to players better than they introduce most mechanics, which I think the odds on that are long, but could be interesting. Skada, thoughts on what we've seen so far for classified
my first thought is the comment I made on Discord earlier, which is like, that's great because I could use a buff against Schnell boats in randoms.
Yeah.
I'll say what I'm looking at the article.
Uh-huh.
And when I get down here, it's like, in Clan Battle Season 30, documents will function similarly. You'll choose them in port instead, like you just said.
Yeah.
And then they say, allowing a sort of mind game against the opposing clan.
I did find that phrase interesting.
Yeah, a sort of mind game. You know what the mind game in Clan Battles is? Is getting anybody to show up and deal with the matchmaker. That's the mind game. Every week is getting 7 friends to show up and go, this is just going to suck. Let's just do this and get it over with. Okay, I don't need secret documents to have a mind game against the opposing clan, for Christ's sakes.
Yes.
Oh my God, great Googa Mooga. All right.
I mean, the mind game is a silly way to put it, but it does allow us to customize our builds, right? So what'll be interesting about that is you will log into a clan battle and there will be a team on the other side that has ships that you're familiar with configurations that are harder for you to predict and understand. Last week we played clan battles and somebody's like, whoa, why didn't I spot that Kleber? And 3 of us in unison said, it's a leg mod Kleber, because we had already figured it out and we'd already said it, but somebody missed the comment, right? No, trouble or no shade on that player, but like figuring out that it was a leg mod Kleber, you're gonna have to do that for every ship in clan battles, depending on how significant these things are. That's tricksy, and you're gonna have that same thing that adds to the mind game that we're gonna have to do in random battles as well with these configurables.
What it's worth,
this adds complexity in my book.
This little text box here also has given us the most information about the next clan battle season. Tier 10s and supers. Yay, awesome. More fun to be had. And I bet, see, if you're going to put in a bunch of bonuses against specific ships, then you don't put in a list of ships you can't take.
Yeah, I just realized that was you, my bad.
So every clan's going to be like, well, we have to run the bonus against Petro.
Yeah.
Or we have to run the bonus against...
I mean, there'll be a meta, right? We'll have to
or
learn that meta too. Yeah, you have to learn that meta as well. So, as we were, let's continue.
In clan battles, you have to choose it before. So it turns into a kind of mind game of what ship will the enemy pick, which intelligence document will they pick in turn. That will be that. And as for operations with flagships, they will be targeted specifically at flagships, and interestingly, they will evolve over time.
Speaking about the field of experimenting also, it's worth to say that we will have a time period that DMC has covered from 14.2 till 14.6 including, where the features will also develop by time of actual patches to be delivered. Why? Because first of all, we will taking the feedback from the production and adapting. And secondly, it's also for us an opportunity to see what we can add more and what we, for example, should remove, for the second iterations. And besides that, this is touching different things. DMC mentioned the classified documents, which will actually have different leveling system, which will be introduced patch by patch. For example, in 14.2, we will drop PvP, the PvP, yes?
Random battles and operations with flagships.
Thank you. We will drop that one. And then in 14.3, we will have a new layer of upgrading for operation with flagships. Why? Because when we are looking on this feature, I'm speaking about operation with flagships, look at it as the danger. When you are coming in, you have a bosses, and the feature by itself will also evolve by time, so we'll have new difficulties coming up each patch, and each patch you will have a new level of progression, the classified documents, which will be used for these bosses against more efficiency, so you will just by time have replayability and opportunity to get more experienced.
Okay.
So not a long conversation here on this one, but the classified documents for the PVE against the flagships. I played a couple of modes or battles of the flagships. It wasn't like a big deal for me to go and play that particular mode. I think some players seem to like it. I didn't hear an overwhelmingly positive or negative response from the community. So it seems like something people played. They had the different weaknesses for the flagships. It seems like you'll be able to customize your classified documents to enhance your ship against the flagship target, which will allow them to customize that over time. I don't have a ton more to say on that, but that sounded like basically what they were describing there. I think they needed a lot of words to describe that because it's a relatively new concept, whereas clan battles, random battles, those are all things we're relatively familiar with.
I want to clarify, this upgrading system, first of all, doesn't come immediately, right? It comes only in 14.3, and it's also only for operations with flagships.
Yes.
The classified documents available in random battles and later in clan battles
They will be given out to players at their full potential immediately.
Yes,
So
immediately.
everybody has access to it, right?
Yes.
There's no differentiation between players.
That's why it's a global mechanic. So that's our philosophy, is that it touches almost every corner of the game.
And from what I know, when the upgrade will be introduced, you won't be having all levels available, right? You will get a bunch of them from from 1 to 4, and then later we will introduce more.
Yes, we will introduce them by patches. So in 14.2 will be dropped first parts and then layer by layer till the end. And also for upgrading these classified documents, you will need a special currency, which you will be able to obtain through missions. That missions has the ideology that if you play in operation with flagships, you earn it easier. If you play in basic modes, you will also earn it, but longer, because we do understand that if you're playing at specific mode, you want faster to progress in it.
Just to clarify, that's for operations with flagships. For random battles, on what tiers will players be able to interact with that mechanic?
That will be tiers 8 and above. Any players that go out into a battle in a tier of 7 or lower will just not interact with it. They will not have access to it, and they will not be affected by it directly.
And of course, the access level to the feature overall for new players will be not immediately when they start the game, because it's gradually opens.
Okay, but I do have a couple of more questions about the classified documents.
I wonder how many of these things they're going to add. Skada, I'm old. And so when I hit battle in World of Warships, and there's like 5 more choices I have to make at the start of a battle, I'm sometimes too lazy to want to make those decisions. And I usually just want to hit battle and start playing World of Warships and not like have to read a bunch of stuff. I think that my initial brush with this in randoms, I'm going to be annoyed. So chat, be ready for that when this happens. It doesn't mean I won't like it in the long term, but it means I probably will be slightly annoyed by having to learn a new thing because I'm a crusty old school World of Warships player. I don't know.
I'm looking at the screenshot they provided. So, I'll comment on this because I haven't seen this in test yet. I think this hits test tomorrow. So this is still, I haven't seen any of this, but
Okay.
It's kind of like what they did at the start of the D-Day operation, except it shows this UI of like classified documents and all these ships, and then you pick 3 ships and there's some benefit you get against those ships, right? And so I'm gonna guess that the list is the enemy team.
So it's like focused based on what actually was there. That would be helpful, right?
And so, and so it's just those are the ships, and it shows in this thing somebody's like, I want a bonus versus Kremlin, Regolo, and K1, which I think is the Russian tier 10 or the Soviet tier 10 submarine.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we're doing this thing, right? But what I presume is it'll work much like it did in the D-Day op, where I don't just have all of these secret to document. And I think that might have come up in our Discord where it's like you got to earn them. And I think Berezkov even pointed out in one of these UIs you can see where it shows that you can like buy them to get them quicker.
Yeah.
So yuck. But yeah, I don't. What I think this is going to do. You know how when you get into a battle, you finally drop into a match, and there's 30-second countdown or however long there's a countdown. I think they're just going to make the countdown longer so more people have time to fiddle around with this.
Maybe, yeah. Now, Chrysanthos did chat saying that you've got to grind these. Chrysanthos did just say that all players will have access to all of them at the same time. So I think you grind them in the PVE for flagships, but in randoms, in modes where you're playing other humans, you get them all. So
yeah, because the UI for the flagship thing is different. It's like, oh, battleships fire damage, and it's like things like that. That's fine. That's kind of like what they've been doing with these special ops modes that they had out on live, except they were fixed. And so this lets the player pick what they want to have, which is cool. That's more beneficial because, like, I played one of those ops, and it was the week where torpedo boats were king, and I wasn't playing a ship with torpedoes, and I was like, well, this sucks. But the thing for randoms is really what I'm looking at, where they have the document management UI. I got to tell you, I don't want to sit down at home and play a video game where I then go to a document management UI. That is a bummer. Just come up with a better name for that, guys.
The guy who manages documents professionally.
Oh man, I know. I just don't. Oh, hold on. Let me sit down here at the document management UI and flip through these files and see which cards I have.
Let's see here. That's so great.
And ultimately, like
Microsoft Word.
You're going to have a bunch of people that use this, and the first thing they do when they get in battle is they pull up the document management UI, and then on their second monitor, they're looking at matchmaking monitor, and they're going, okay, do I want an advantage against the worst players on their team, or do I want an advantage against the best players on their team?
Yeah, I tried to put the link to this picture in there. I'll put the link to the dev blog that Scott is looking at, guys, if you want to check it out. Maybe you guys have seen it already. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll plug it in down there. I was trying to put the picture in there. If we're doing this on YouTube, I'll try to put the picture on the screen unless I'm a lazy editor. So
anyway, this part, you're right though. Like, I don't want another thing that I have to do. Like, I certainly don't want that thing to be the document management UI, where I'm selecting documents for review prior to the battle.
Now, I will say, I had a comment earlier I wanted to chime in on because I think it's worth talking about. Turbo said, this seems complicated, ugly, and worthless. Why not put resources in other areas? I'm with you on the complicated. I don't know if I think it's ugly or not. It looks like a thing. I wonder a little bit about worthless. And the reason there is because the game's 10 years old. And this is a way, we've talked about how are they going to make interactions with ships they already have created and we already have on our accounts and stuff more interesting. I'm not opposed to having another like cool module I can plug in on my ship. I've had conversations with people over the years where it was like, it'd be kind of cool if I could swap out and build my build for my ship more uniquely than just like, do I have the base modules or do I have the upgraded modules? Do I have signals or do I not have signals, right? Basically, you always are going to wind up with the upgraded modules, which means everybody's ship is exactly the same. You're always going to have some set of signals once you've got yourself to economically to a place where you can have those. So basically, everybody kind of runs the same signals. Your captain build might be a little bit different. Your upgrades might be a little bit different. This is kind of another thing like that. So even though I'm sitting here going, I'm old and I don't want to figure this out, but like, I don't know if I'm opposed to the idea of more configuration for our ships. I do wonder if, and I said this earlier, I'll say it again, Chrysanthos was talking about, hey, the game's gotten pretty complicated, so we don't want to make it any more complicated. I think what he means is we don't want to constantly add mechanics. And in this case, this is a thing where they're going to add some mechanics for a while, and we're going to see how it goes. If it's cool, maybe it comes back, either as a temporary event or as a permanent part of the game. But this is the kind of thing we can try and then see if it's okay, right? Like I said, I'm not opposed to additional ways to configure my ship. I don't want it to be laborious, though. And I'm hopeful, and I'm always hopeful, and I'm not always right, but I'm hopeful that they thought through the labor part of this. Because like you said, Skada, do I want to roll over to the old Cold War era file cabinet and choose my favorite manila folder of buffs? Or not? Well, I kind of want to not choose them, but I don't necessarily have a problem with the idea of slightly more configurability.
No, you've got to. You don't want to miss out on having an advantage against the enemy.
Exactly. You're going to do it.
If they give, and I think they said, what tier? They said it was this tier 8 and up. This
8 and up, 8, 9, and 10.
So they got to make like classified documents for a lot of ships.
They do. So there's going to be
Which-
some buff against. Yeah.
Yeah, Wichita. I'm going to assume that they're
Wichita,
that they're
Clyde's new favorite cruiser. That's 10 years
just
old.
like it's going to end up being like class based. Like if it's a sub, this is what it is. Because they're not.
I
gonna
think
make,
there'll
like,
be some
individual
common
unique
themes. Yeah. No, I
unique
concur.
buffs against. I mean, literally from tier 8 up is the bulk of the 700 ships.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. There'll be some common themes. So I don't think they're going to design 500 or 400 custom documents. That's, first of all, that's absurd. And from a business perspective, that doesn't make any sense. You're not going to do that. So
It
yeah.
does make sense if you're going to sell them in packs like Madden cards and the
No.
And when you open the pack,
stop.
it randomly gives you one rare,
Cat.
two uncommons
No.
and a bunch of commons.
Damn you,
Just throw
Skada.
that out there.
Oh, you're saying there's going to be gray, not economic bonuses, but gray classified documents, green classified documents, blue classified documents, and red ones?
Purple
that's
ones
terrible.
and orange ones. Yeah, that'd be my
that's terrible.
guess.
Yeah, I have no idea what this could.
I mean,
look
that's
like.
what I would do with this if I was really trying to,
No threats of violence, Byron.
get more lounges that look out on Prague or Serbia or wherever this is.
Yeah,
You know,
this
these
is a
high
very
back chairs
good
aren't
thing.
cheap.
All right, let's keep going.
Yep.
Randoms and clan battles, I guess. We don't need to unlock them in like some kind of grindy way. You just have them.
You just log in and get them immediately.
And
Okay.
also, if, for example, in random battles, if you don't know how to put them or if you don't want to care about it, it will be just auto-pick.
They will be picked automatically. If
Oh.
it is a burden to you,
So I
you
can
can
be
just
old.
not interact with the feature completely.
Okay, and about how they work, another thing I could immediately think of, do they stack?
They
See? Just all
do
your
in a
questions
sense,
were
as
answered.
in if
Just
you
say it.
go into a battle and there
Just gotta let them keep talking, you know.
are 5 Shimikazes and you pick a classified document against Shimikaze, it will apply to all of them. But to balance this out, if there are more than one copy of the ship, the effect will be lowered.
Okay. Lastly, just wanted to confirm they are just personal. These apply applicable only to your ship.
The effect is
Wait, stop that for a
exclusive to the
second.
interaction.
Yeah, go ahead.
So he said if there's 5 Shimas and it'll affect all of them, but the effect will be lowered.
Yeah, they're gonna scale
Because-
it so that you don't become a
What?
super blaster.
What? Like it instead if there was only one Shima, you do I don't know what this
Let's
is
say
gonna
it's
be,
plus
but
40% damage with one Shima or something, or whatever the
Okay.
dumb mechanic is.
It's-
Yeah.
4%. But okay. But if there's 5 Shimas, it's only 1%. What? That can't work that way.
Yeah, I don't know if it's linear like that. I don't know, but I can imagine. Now again, DMV, whatever this guy, DMC, I think he's from the balance crew, right? So he's thinking about how to make sure you don't have an outsized impact on the game, and scaling that in some fashion makes some sense from his chair, his high-backed orange chair. But yeah, I think that. I think scaling it is probably required, but at the same time, I don't want them to scale it. I want to have an outsized impact on the game. But I don't want
that's
people
only
to
if
have
you
them
get
against
the-
me, I guess. So I don't.
That's only if you get the rare one from the pack. I mean,
That's if you get the foil Fleer.
well, who am I kidding? They'll give all of them to CCs. You won't have to worry about that. But for the rest of us,
Well,
we'll
if they
have to.
charge steel or research points for them, I'll have to. Oh no!
No, they're actually this is what they're going to sell for coal now is these packs.
Oh golly, the coal.
At least I'd have something to
trading
use my
cards.
coal on.
As long as there's a trading card, a trading post where we can swap them, like
Oh, they're not
Pokemon.
going to do that. They don't like that.
I know. Let's keep going.
Between your ship and your target.
Okay.
We will move on then to experimental ships, and
Everyone's
some of the
favorite.
players seeing this will already see in their matches the cruiser Metz, Vyazma, and the battleship Oregon. This is the first set of experimental ships. They have 2 new experimental features. First of all, it is limited ammo, not gold ammo, I would say. It is a limited pool of ammo, like a consumable, that is significantly stronger than your conventional ammo, but once you run out, you have to switch back to your
And worse to say, once you ended the battle, the post-battle cost service is the same, just for any type of ammo that you would have.
Okay, so we can think about it as like chargers of consumables.
Yes.
Okay.
I should continue then to the second feature is fight or flight. The gist of it is the less HP you have, the stronger your ship gets. So in these specific ships, the lower your HP, the more accurate your guns and the faster your reload on those guns. We will also have a second set of these ships. Those will be focused on secondaries. So we know people love secondary ships, so
How can you not? Come on.
they will feature an impressive set of secondaries in their base mode, but as their HP goes down, they become really fearsome secondary platforms.
And in what modes can you actually use these ships?
All modes, they are available.
Okay, so not
All right, crazy event ships, not gold ammo, all modes. Skada reactions. Do you have a reaction? You're like, yeah, I'd rather not.
I've played these.
Oh,
so I
okay,
can't talk
that's
about
okay.
'em.
I'll share some thoughts then. So we've got a lot of gold ammo conversations going on. The difference between this ammo and gold ammo, especially for those of you guys who don't actually know what gold ammo is, but you talk about gold ammo a lot on Reddit. Gold ammo cost additional in-game resources, non-money resources on World of Tanks. I think there was a brief period early in gold ammo's life where it did cost actual gold, which is where it got the name. That went away pretty quickly in World of Tanks. In World of Warships, this is special ammo, and Wargaming is trying to say, and I'm saying their words now, this is like a consumable, not like a custom ammo that costs you more resources. There is, of course, a possible dark future where everyone has goatees, where it is, in fact, an ammo that costs you additional resources. But right now, what we're talking about, this mechanic is not that. Mike says, not yet. Exactly, Mike. So there's a possibility there where in some dark future that is possible. They're not doing it with these ships right now. The other thing I'll highlight is these ships are available in all modes. I don't know if that includes clan battles, but it probably does include your PVE modes, your random modes, and your ranked modes at a minimum, it sounds like. I don't know if it would be wise or not to take these into clan battles if that was an option for you. That would be another interesting way to make sure that teams have, I say interesting with air quotes there, interesting way to make sure your teams have more options for builds. But I think these are probably, so far we haven't seen stuff that's clan battle appropriate tiers, at least not with the seasons we've been having recently. They've been, I think, 9s lately. So we'll keep our eye on that concept for the future. All modes except for the modes where we ban ships of that tier, for example, sounds like what I'm hearing. Yeah, I think we can just continue on. Unless
I
you got
do
a
have
thought. Yeah, go
one
ahead.
comment briefly on this one is I'm
Sure.
angry they're wasting Oregon here.
Oh yeah, you've mentioned this to me, and this is a great opportunity to share that with chat in a big way. Yeah, so you've got some attachment to the state of Oregon, but they're using Oregon here as a weird rando ship instead of a real boat.
Yeah, I don't mind saying that that's my home state, and so it bothers me. I've been waiting, and there was no historical USS Oregon that was worth a crap. Like the battleship was like a World War I or a dreadnought, but
An old school ship, yeah.
But like ultimately, when they announced this, I was so excited, and they're like, "And it's a Georgia clone," and I'm like, "Whoa!" And then they're like, "And it's for this goofball stuff and not real," and I was like, "Oh,
Nah, it's temporary. I don't even get to keep it. See, this is the thing I'm talking about, right? It's tough. All right, let's go.
just event ships. And you can use the classified documents against them, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So these features is actually combined to each other. And also, as we said before, that, for example, classified documents is evaluating by time through 14.2 till 14.6. Same actually with the sets. Why? Because we will drop first set at the beginning 14.2, and it will leave till 14.6 including. And the second set, we will drop somewhere in the middle of the summer in one of the patches. And it will leave also till 14.6. So simultaneously, there will be existing basically two sets.
Two sets of ships,
yes,
okay.
that players can see in the battles and also obtain.
Are they consecutive? Did you unlock them after each other?
The sets inside, yes, consecutive, but between the sets, there are no gates.
Which of course brings me to the most important question that people will have is how do you actually get access to these ships?
We would love to give it this way. To open the ships, you will need your common resources that we already have in the game, for example, credits. And also they will be needed to have a special currency, let's call it progress points now. And that progress points are obtainable also via playing, just playing our game simply. There will be special missions where you just take it and then you use it in this feature. Worth to say that the amount of, let's say, grind around it is regulated by sort of things. So first of all, If, for example, you're a casual player, you will be able, by your casual activity, to try all one set through these 5 months. If you are a high active player, of course, we have a philosophy. If you play more, you get more fun. So that's why we will give an opportunity to try both sets just by amount of time that the second one is living, only for active, high active players.
And if I may, it is one of the challenges actually for a game that has been around for such a long time, and with the very different kind of players that we have, that there's a set of players that might play the game very casually, there's a set of players that is playing a lot, and we're trying to find a good balance between still providing access to players who might not play as actively but still would like to try it, and players who play significantly more and might probably be more interested in trying these new mechanics and interactions between ships.
Let's put it like this. So if, for example, in the middle of summer, you will just come and you will see all of that. We do now consider actually to have a small boost for everyone who comes later, just to catch up, because we do understand that the mechanic is limited time, and we want just for you to have fun, and that's why there will be such opportunities also to catch up.
Okay. So how do you get the ships? You spend credits, you earn some Ouija token, and casual players can play half the ships probably. If you play as much as somebody who watches Twitch streams and has watched 18 minutes of this video, you probably can get more of the ships. I'm annoyed by the new currency like everybody is, but at the same time, I don't know how else they would do it, right? If they deployed these ships and just said everyone can have access to them. We saw what happened when they gave away Audaciouses to players in December who'd never played World of Warships before. These ships, if they just gave everybody a ship with a third of its natural health points and some more complex mechanics, I wouldn't want to see those ships in high tier either. So there needs to be some sort of gate. I don't know a better way to do it than what they do, even though I think having to grind to unlock them always kind of seems like a little silly. But Helmet says they'll sell the currency. Of course they will. So Wargaming, it's a pay to progress system, right? They argue that they're not pay to win. Players may say otherwise, and I'm certain there's lots of great debates around that. But it is pay to progress. So I imagine there will be a way for you to exchange actual money to go faster to get the ships if you wish that you want to. I don't know that for a fact, but that sounds like it would be that way. I don't know, Scott. Maybe we already talked this to death at the beginning about grinding and expending resources to get ships you don't get to keep. I don't know if there's much more to talk about that, but it does look like there's 2 sets that sounded like a total of 6 ships. They'll have a brief overlap in the middle, and they'll be most of the mid part of the year.
Yeah. I mean, my 2 takeaways there were, of course, not only will it cost you credits, but it'll cost some hokum that you earn by playing. And
Some
if you play
grindo
more,
token,
you'll earn
yeah.
more of that. But if you're casual, you might get it too. Second thing was the thing that chat keyed on when she had the audacity to say that the more you play, the more fun you get.
Yeah, I saw Brand's comment.
I'm not
about
sure
that.
any of us feels like that most of the time at this point, which is a sad state of affairs. But that is the sunk cost fallacy that is free to play games. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at their UI for this, and it does show that there's components you research, and there's a button that says complete research with doubloons. So
yeah, there it is. Right. Yeah.
So it looks like on the first ship, which is a up-tiered Toulon. You got to complete 5 components to research it. Then it probably unlocks that. And then you can go into battle in a up-tiered Toulon with half as many hit points as you need to win. So yeah, that's a mode. I like the UI.
The UI does look cool. I just posted the link, chat. If you're just joining us, you can go check out the pictures in there.
A cool looking UI.
Yeah, I do like the UI. They have some stuff blurred out, which is interesting, which I guess are the numbers so that they can adjust those in testing. The boosts and weaknesses or whatever that it has.
You can kind of see on the sideboard there, receive blank potential damage, reward for completion.
Yeah.
That says 10,000 credits behind it. Use new mechanic blah blah times. So that's like if you play the boat, there's these combat missions attached to it.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that helps you research the next one maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she did say they were consecutive. So within a group, you'll grind the first one, the second one, the third one. But you can, for that period where both groups are active, you can be grinding both sets of ships independently, but they each have a 1, 2, 3 kind of progression, ship to ship within them.
Yeah, they probably announced the other set of ships, and I'm just not savvy on it because I haven't had my head down doing other stuff for the last.
I think
month,
they did. I might be in the news that we're going to cover either later tonight or probably on Thursday at the rate this has gone. But yeah, I think we talk about the if you play more, you get more fun. If you play more, you certainly get more ships, right? Obviously, and then
not these ones, mind you. You don't get to keep these, so
don't get to keep them, but you do get access to them. Yes, that is worth pointing out. But I do think that, like, when we think about that stuff, and we talk about this periodically, right? There are other video games. It's okay to take a break from World of Warships, but it's also, of course, always here when you want to come back to it. The reason we play this game is because there is not a lot of competition out there that feels and plays this way, but it should not become your whole life to an unhealthy state. So please, if it starts feeling like work, don't let it. Go do something else. Be one of those sort of casual players, right? Let's keep going.
Somewhere in the summer.
But I have to ask the question. The ships will be removed.
Yes, the ships will be removed.
So the next question is, what do you get for playing with them?
Not only the fun on playing on the ships, of course, also rewarding, because we do understand that you put time on that. Of course, you earn economy of playing on ships. Secondly, there will be special missions for the ships that you will play, and you will get also some stuff. And after the whole event is ended, they will be rewarding. The rewarding will be based on how many ships did you take and how much time did you spend on that.
Basically on your activity that you had
so
with these
basically
ships.
just on activity.
And what kind of rewards can players expect? Can we maybe share a bit? What type of rewards?
I will be short here. We are thinking about the themed cosmetics and resources. Resources will be applied, but not the typical one like credits.
Okay. And
okay, so that's kind of interesting, depending on what's in that little prize pack at the end. So to recap, the more of these ships that you unlock, when you're done with it, obviously you get to have all of the fun from playing the ships, you get all of the rewards from the interim missions, but you get some sort of prize pack at the end based on the number of ships that you unlocked. There is a recent dev blog that has some camos in it. I wonder if those are the rewards. She mentioned cosmetics. She also said resources, and then she said not credits. So that's potentially interesting. I'm going to guess it's going to be coal, not steel or research points, but it could be something cool. Wouldn't it be neat if it was 1,000 steel for, if you got 3 ships, you get 1,000 steel or something? I don't think that'll be the case, but like, it's probably going to be some coal. Cosmetics is interesting too. If there's like a cool camo you get for completing that mission. Here's my prediction. Oh, free XP, Commander XP. Of course, Brand. I didn't even think of that. Here's my prediction. There will be a prize pack. It won't be quite as cool as we want it to be, but the concept is there. That's definitely an area where I'm going to make sure where gaming gets feedback, whether it's good or bad from me, at least.
That prize pack is going to have gold ammo in it.
No! You get right out of town.
You got your
No, it's Skada.
But an odd number, just so it's upsetting to people who are finicky that way. 17 gold ammos.
No, stop this.
It's gonna have a flag that's super ugly.
It'll
definitely
have a flag.
It's gonna have an ocean soul permanent camouflage.
Please stop this. You're hurting me.
10,000 commander XP.
No.
And
5,000
and a pack of gray economic bonus. Not credits, just ship XP, free XP, commander XP. The credit ones they can't afford to give away.
Oh, that's hilarious. Liz Mays says, I have 30 plus unassigned permanent camos. Me too, Liz. I never hook up my camos. I never put them on because I'm always afraid to use them. Over time, I'm going to eventually start applying these to ships. But I've
got a lot of them that I've earned this year too. And the problem is they're all ugly.
I know. I'm hoping for some.
Like
really
one of the
cool
events gave me like 20 of like the red Asian one that looks like you're in a
one we got like 8 of
restaurant.
Those this year. Yeah.
Great Googa Mooga. I don't want any more of that one. What am I going to put it on? Like, don't give me that.
I'm hopeful that it's stuff that isn't like just a patterned one. Like it's like a legitimate cool camo, right? Like that'd be sick if they put something like that on there. Anyway.
You know what I'd like to see them give out, and this is a random thing that they're never going to do.
Is this
well,
go ahead.
How about a thing that says, "Oh, you earn this thing," and that gives you half off an event pass in the future, like a coupon that
Not
actually
bad.
had a value. Say, oh, you can buy the paid line of the event pass for 50% off. How about that?
That'd be kind of cool. Or just some dubs, maybe. Yeah. I mean, that's the same thing you just said. Of course, the thing you said
75 dub. Well,
requires
if
you
it
to
was
put some
dubs,
dubs
they'd
in,
only give
though.
you because they're giving you half. It's only there. It's not dubs if it's half off an event pass because you're only presuming that everybody buys every event pass, right? But if you're saying, hey, instead of spending 2,500 dubs on this event pass, you can buy an event pass in future for 1,250 dubs with this coupon. Why?
That's totally a fair
reward.
thing for them to offer because it does still require you to put some dubs in. So good for the company, right? And good for you if you're interested in an upcoming event pass. And they could put an expiration date on it. You got to do it in the next 4 patches.
Spoiler:
right?
Somebody says they're getting rid of the battle pass later in the vid. All right, well, to hell with it.
They did say they were going to make some changes. I haven't seen what those are yet. Let's keep going, I guess.
It's going to cost twice as much and be harder to get stuff out of.
The way it currently works is that no matter what, it will be removed at the end.
Goodness.
How does it work for the future? How do we judge whether this content might come back or it's not going to come back?
We will, of course, once we remove these ships, we will reflect on the entire experience from start to finish, and we'll see the feedback, their performance. If they are received well, there is nothing stopping us from ideating on the concept, improving it in the future, and bringing it back. If not, we'll try something else.
Okay,
I have another question actually. From what I understand, they will be treated like any regular ships, meaning that we can bring even balance changes to them while they are released.
Yes, of course, and we will be especially attentive both in the period that they are being tested, and we will ensure that they are in a fit state, but even after their release, we will apply changes if needed.
It was, let me just comment it like very straightly. This is not just mechanic that we did something and let's test on production. No, it doesn't work like this. So this is fully developed mechanics that we just put in the game and see how they are living in this whole infrastructure. And then we are taking them out, but it's fully developed.
So it follows the same process, the same approach as any new ship that we would bring to the game, right?
Yes.
And when we talk about production, that just means the live server that our players play on, because we do have different test servers where we try these things before our test mechanics. So just to clarify.
Okay.
I guess that does line up with the idea that, as you mentioned earlier, I can't talk about these because I'm testing them now. It is content that has been tested. That'll be interesting. Like this first batch that has the crazy half-dead ships, like is super weird. Like if they did something a little less weird, like ships that don't log in half dead, but maybe have some new unique command mechanics or something, I think this would feel a little more natural, but it is a little wonky. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a couple different things these ships have. It's the gold ammo thing, and it's the half dead thing, which comes with a form of inherent AR.
Yeah,
but that isn't. But that
AR,
stacks with real AR on the captain, right? So there's a benefit there.
Yeah. So all of those mechanics, kind of in combination, are fairly unique for these ships, but obviously independent of one another. I guess they're the different ammo type. The consumable ammo, and then the other. Hey, Andy, welcome. We got a shout out for Andy the Cupid in the chat, guys. Check him out, twitch.tv/Andy the Cupid. Good morning, sir.
Do we have anything else to add about these time limited mechanics and ships?
No. I hope a lot of you will try it, play it, give us feedback, and then we'll see what will actually stick around and how we'll adjust this approach for the future.
Okay, then we can actually move to more regular types of content. And I would probably want to start with events. Are there any new events?
Well, since we talked quite a bit about PvP, there will be a new event actually coming to the game, testing a new mechanic, but in a separate event, which actually focuses on respawning. If you got unlucky in the battle and, the enemy seemed to be stronger than you were, and you might have been overwhelmed and your ship is sunk, you will actually get a timer. And after the timer is over, your ship will respawn, and you can actually re-enter the battle and continue playing it. Is there like a limitation of how often I can do this?
We'll see. It may be limited, it may be unlimited, but the important thing is the aggressive gameplay that a lot of our players like will now not necessarily have the downside of, sinking early. They will be able to try different tactics on the same ship, ideating over and over again.
Okay. Alternatively, you can be sniped from across the map.
It's okay. I will recommend this mode to my fellow teammates that try to be, very quickly in the middle of the map.
So look at this great smile on Chris Santos' face. That's what Chris, I think it was Chris Santos, might have been DMC, just said about that, which is kind of interesting, which is I think it was DMC said the aggressive gameplay that players want, this will kind of allow them to play that way. Every game that has respawns has some sort of way of limiting this, right? Battlefield games have tickets. Every time you die, it costs your team tickets.
That's what I'm thinking. There's tickets, right? But in the thing here, it just says there's a timer.
Yeah, and the other way that, like in games like League of Legends, the way that works is your timer gets bigger every time. Players need to feel some sort of punishment for dying, in Clyde's opinion, right? And so tickets are one way to make sure people are still mad at you for throwing your ship away. So I feel like if it were me and they were trying to encourage a brave gameplay, I'll say brave, then you wouldn't want tickets. That seems like not the way to do it. I would do the increased timer. The first time is 15 seconds, the second time is 20, then 30, then 45, so that you personally feel that pain. Who Jam says, I think it's a PVE mode. That could be. I don't know. If maybe they cover that here in a little bit, or maybe they don't describe it. World of Tanks has a respawn mode where it's like a huge map, and you can respawn. I think you pick like 3 tanks at the beginning of the battle, and you can respawn in those 3 tanks over and over again in a cycle. That is, I think it's really fun on World of Tanks. I don't know if World of Warships will be as fun. I guess we'll wait and see. And it might be a totally different take on the concept, but yeah, there's got to be some punishment if you die. Like, and it doesn't have to be a bad punishment. Maybe it's just that your timer goes up 5 seconds each time, right? I don't know. But tickets is the thing that came to mind first for me too, Skada.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, let's roll on.
Okay, thank you. So aircraft carrier and AA rework. What can we share?
Yes, maybe just to recap a little bit. Actually, we've been going through several iterations over the years to improve the carrier gameplay, because we see a lot of feedback around this topic, and also from our side, we would like to improve it. And last year, we wanted to try a completely new concept, and the whole concept of the test was about removing the overspotting that we have in the game through different mechanics. Maybe we can talk about it in a minute, just to remind people. Also addressing strength of AA and the kind of tools you have to, defend yourself against AA, but also providing new interesting gameplay, for example, for carrier players, like manual secondaries that we introduced. And while we got actually quite a few questions the last few months in terms of where does this stand, we've been spending the last few months reviewing the feedback, the data, and building up to the next test, which is around the corner, actually.
Yeah, I will not share the exact dates yet, but you can expect it in February. And we encourage you to join this test because we do intend to implement CV rework in 2020.
Yeah, so she said February, and then they said, hey guys, we reserve the right to move this around. I'm excited to see this come back. Last time it was a mechanical test. I'm hoping that they did some balance work, and it kind of fits a little bit better with.
Yeah, they list here
gameplay.
The changes compared to the previous test.
Mm-hmm.
Recon mode is going to be simpler. Def AA is no longer going to prevent spotting. Priority sector is going to cover 360 around the ship and buff AA damage. Well, that was what they had added.
Yeah.
A new AA consumable is in the works with gold ammunition.
Hold on.
I may have made that part up.
Okay.
It will be clearer. This is the line that I don't understand. It will be clearer which planes are dangerous and which are not.
I think that means
what
which
the hell
ones,
does that mean?
I think that
like
means
which
which
ones are in transit.
Which ones are spotting you? Yeah.
All right, and then the speedometer will return, and then it says they're going to let carriers he said everybody likes the idea of manual secondaries. These aren't manual secondaries. We have manual secondaries. That's where I click on a thing. This is main battery guns on carriers. They're just small guns.
Yeah, they're little guys.
It's okay. And then some commander skills are going to get reworked. So there will be like a week where there's probably a website that's hidden that you have to go to reset your commanders. And what else is here? The line, if you haven't tried the new mechanics yet, now's the time. What?
Well, February is the time. Or whenever
it says, as we plan to release them this year. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, whatever.
CV changes. The good news is they're coming. I've seen tons of people asking this question. I've been asking this question to try to figure out when it is we'll have a chance to see this again. And Brand says, here we are in February. He's right. So, I'm interested in seeing what this looks like this time. I know a lot of CV mains are curious about how this affects the power of their class. And I think that's something that Wargaming has to keep a handle on.
What
as they're going
class?
forward.
Oh.
Heyo. Or do you mean what class, right? Because they're, see, same words, different inflection. But I think I think I'm interested to see how that class maintains its impact, and what that looks like in the future when they take the surgical knife, if you will, to the strategy. They did say this year, Gorilla, so we are expecting to see that. I would say soon TM. I don't know if they did put an asterisk where she said February because they didn't want to refilm this, but they did want to give themselves a little bit of wiggle room. So this is Clyde speculating, not a fact, but sometime in the next couple months we'll probably have an opportunity to see this. So I hope that that's true. Let's roll on.
25. So yeah, please use this opportunity and actually.
Yes,
And a big shout out to people who provided feedback.
Yeah, volunteers, community contributors, players. It was really, really helpful, the feedback you provided. And maybe, DMC, you can recap just like the very core of it in terms of the changes we applied and what stays, what we might remove in the next test.
Sure, the very core is, well, addressing spotting. To do that, we'd introduce several modes that a plane does once it takes off the carrier. It's travel mode, recon mode, and attack mode. In travel mode, we want the carrier to be laser focused to get to that target. There's no accidental spotting while you fly over some enemy ships and give them inconvenience of spotting them. No, you just go at full speed with no limits directly to your target. And after that, you can choose to go to one of the two different modes. Either recon, where it's a limited resource, I must say, where you go down.
Just briefly, if it's not apparent to everybody out there, they didn't introduce anything. They're reusing submarine code for the airplanes. So you're either at maximum depth, periscope depth, or on the surface. That's all they're doing here.
Yeah, it's
went,
elevation.
we wrote some code, i.e. Lesta wrote some code for submarines a few years ago. How can we reuse this? Okay.
Yeah, no, that's a way to look at it, right? I mean, you're either at the altitude where you can do damage, the altitude where you can't do damage, or the altitude, mechanic. So they're using that concept for sure in here. I think players have a lot of players have a negative connotation on submarines. A lot of players have a negative connotations on aircraft carriers, and so we're using kind of that mechanic for all of these for sure. One thing DMC said there is that. No limitations. You'll be able to travel at high speed all the time. That's a speed buff, at least, to the carrier moving the planes around. But it does mean that when you're doing that high speed travel, you're not able to do some of the things that you can do now as a carrier player. Again, I'm eager to get my hands on this as a sometimes food carrier player. I sample carriers, but I would not consider myself a CV main. Many of you know that. I have a very small number of CV games, but I am interested to sample this next time it comes around. On both sides. I want to see what it's like to be a destroyer playing against a carrier as well as to be a carrier trying to find a destroyer as well. But yeah, the elevation thing is very similar, as Skada points out, to the way that they manage depth on submarines.
And survey your surroundings before attacking, or attack mode, where you go directly into attack. Now, you can choose whether to go into recon or directly into attack, and you can go into attack from recon. Recon is obviously more advantageous, but it's a limited resource, which we won't give a lot of. Now, moving on to what actual changes we want to introduce. Obviously, I want to say that the skeleton was liked. We consider it successful, and we want to continue ideating and improving it and adding new features. But a very important removal from it will be the removal of the blinding mechanic, where surface ships could, by certain actions, blind the planes that were coming into an attack. From the feedback we got, it was very unintuitive and extremely disorienting. So we'll try to do the same, but in a more player-friendly way. So that does not mean that we're weakening AA, of course not.
Do we have anything like how we're going to improve, for example, AA as kind of like a different improvement?
First of all, it will be an improvement to priority sector, where currently on our live servers, you can improve the AA of half your ship at a certain point. Now, by clicking a certain button for a certain time, you can improve the entirety of your AA. And additionally to that, we also, in the past playtests, introduced automatic AA, which is basically, it charges up your AA that becomes much stronger as you get more and more harassed by the carrier. And we want to improve this even more. Furthermore, we'll be adding new tools that were not present in the past. We will be adding a new consumable that will be directly reducing damage from carrier armaments.
Wow.
Tell us all.
So wanted to grab, so Wick says, what? I don't know anyone who liked the test mechanic. We've got to separate the mechanic from the balance. I think they're Wicks, and maybe you'll still be like, nah, it still sucked. And that's okay. I think some of the mechanics they introduced were popular. I think people liked the idea of being able to shoot their secondary guns. I think people did not like this blinding mechanic. I didn't like the blinding mechanic as a CV player. I really disliked it. And as a surface ship player, I didn't like it. I don't know that I'm not really excited about the idea that Def AA just now goes to all sides. because that's, I don't know. Like AA was really easy to manage before, and this seems to make it even easier. There was some talk at one point about making the way Def AA worked. Like right now, when you hit Def AA and planes are within your area, you get a big puff of damage against them, like a 10% damage buff or 10% damage immediate impact to the carrier's planes. And there was some talk about changing that, and I don't remember where that wound up landing, where like you kind of had to hit it before they entered your AA bubble, which made it harder to do as a surface ship. I hope that doesn't happen. But I think there was lots of mechanics in the thing. The reduction of spotting and things were popular. I would agree, though, Wix, if you're talking about the balance of the test before, the balance was terrible and it was way off. And I'm hoping that they make it better. But I think mechanically, the buttons you pushed, the effects you could expect, even though they were terribly balanced, I think those were relatively well thought out. Now, you might still disagree, Wix, and that's perfectly fine. It's your right as a citizen on this planet. But I think the mechanics of it were okay, but I felt like the balance part was really bad. And to me, that's what made the test feel real bad the whole time. For sure. Asteri, CVs are being nerfed. And I know this is your class, but I want to point out that's what's happening. And I know you know that as a CV player, this is the thing that's happening. I think CVs are losing more than they're gaining. And I don't know that every change to the game has to result in gains for everybody. And I think in this case, it's not possible for sure. So I agree. And I think that CV players are going to be wary of this. And again, I think it's incumbent and important that we provide feedback for sure. So I know you're vocal. So I hope you're also vocal in the World of Warships official feedback channels on their Discord as well, because hearing from players like you is going to be valuable for them as they're going through this. I kind of rambled about a bunch of stuff in there. Skada, any thoughts or proceed?
Nah, keep going.
Alrighty.
About the commanders.
Yes, obviously, a rework of this magnitude cannot come without changing the integral part of commander skills. So I cannot tell you when exactly it will come, but carrier skills will be changed. And, of course, other classes also have AA skills. They will also be looked at.
You said that we are removing the mechanic that prevented planes from spotting ships and doing something similar. I just want to clarify that this mechanic is actually removed for now, and we are not using it in the whole AA rework.
Yes, but it may come back if we find a better use for it.
Okay, that's great.
But I still have to ask. Manual secondaries, right?
Everyone loved them. We loved them, of course.
You forgot the most important thing.
The most important thing, speedometer. Yes. So as you can see, I hope you can see that, we took a lot of the feedback from the player base, tried to integrate it, and then, hopefully be, able to bring this to the game very, very soon.
And I know there are two additional improvements that we're thinking about concerning AA mechanics and bubbles.
Yes. First of all, AA mechanics, we want to give something to the carrier players as well. We are considering adding a new mechanic that will allow planes to dodge AA with a certain chance, which will basically give you a small chance to, for a very limited portion of time, avoid overwhelming AA. As for the bubbles improvements, all I can say is we are considering significantly changing the system, but can't go into details.
One of the changes that we're actually applying, when we talk about spotting, is that patrol fighters will not be able to spot.
That is true. It was a change that we introduced midway into this previous playtest, actually, and it was really well received, and we decided to stick with it. So just to recap, all secondary aviation, such as fighters, airstrikes, and everything of the sort, will stop spotting.
Exciting.
I think we are done with the majority of PvP-related stuff, but there is another big part of our core gameplay, PvE. And as you've mentioned already, we are going hard with PvE this year.
Yes, outside of what we already discussed in terms of classified documents and operations to flagships that you already currently have access to, we're also going to bring in 14.4 actually convoys to operations, where you can play operations on the convoy maps. And something that we actually saw in 2024 that worked really well as well with the additional operations that we brought to the game, be it D-Day or the Star Trek operations that were absolutely fantastic. Part of how that worked was you had a different set, like a pool of secondary tasks that would be randomized so that there's more variety, more replayability within PvE. And this is actually something that will be also introduced for these convoys that will be available in operations. And later on, we'll bring it to regular operations as well, so that there is more fun and more variety.
We know our operations audience is very, very passionate about them, and they know all the ins and outs of them. So we just want to introduce a bit more replayability, so to give them a bit more things to go back to.
Okay, I think we're actually done with the core part of this little presentation, and it's now time to move to the next one. And I need the help of Stacy to actually explain it We call it, well, not me, but they call it with a very scary, with a very scary word.
Well, it's the internal way how we refer to either teams or how certain things work in the game, right? And since we have this format where we talk a little bit more in details about it or give context, what is core? What is meta? What is
Let's say in terms of terms, core is everything we call what happens inside the battle. So all the actions, all taking points and all the stuff. But everything what is outside of the battle, I mean, in a port, in the armory, in the dockyard, in missions, it's all about, which is called meta gameplay. And we do have a line where it all starts. So, but for simplicity, if it's in a battle, it's core. If it's outside of the battle, it's meta.
Yes, I mean, we have some really cool things planned.
So just a quick thing on that. When you talk about like data and metadata, data is your data and metadata is data about your data, right? This is like from like computer science world. So when we talk about meta as gamers, we do not mean the meta they're talking about. When they talk about core gameplay, that's the battle, like she said, and then meta is the things you do about battle that isn't battle, and it's more that definition. I'm just kind of restating it to make sure people understand that. I don't think there's a lot of conversation we got to have there, but when you think about meta, that's going to be armory and research bureau resets and combat missions, that kind of stuff. Whereas obviously core gameplay is when you hit battle and you're in there shooting your guns and flying your airplanes around.
For especially players who like to play the game a lot and maybe want to compare themselves against other players.
I know you like it. Come on, shoot. Tell us.
Why don't we split it? So what are we going to introduce for these players?
Basically, we want to, let's say, revisit the feature that also is one of the game of wargaming is World of Tanks. We want to introduce the mastery badges back into the game in our own way, how we see it. And also there will be another second one feature. It's mastery ranks, which is about getting more playing constantly on all of your fleet.
Yeah, if you want to separate it a bit, so we have mastery badges, we have marks of excellence. The mastery badges are based on your performance, based on XP in the battle that is compared against an average of players, and depending on how you are, you get mastery badges, right? While marks of excellence, which will come at a later point. First, we will start with the mastery badges before we actually bring the marks of excellence. That will be focused on a longer period of time where you have to show consistently, how good you play the game, and you can basically level them up, right?
And actually, I want to see how streamers some get of that.
I think this will be the highlight.
Yes, I really wish to see, because I am watching actually a lot of our CC, and it will be really exciting for me.
Yes, I mean, maybe we can even talk a little bit about behind the scenes. We did actually have a CC summit.
Yes,
a few months ago, and we shared a bit of info under NDA with our guests that were here, and this was one of the things that we shared, and the reaction was absolutely amazing. So I hope that will be something really cool, especially for a player who might have reached a certain point in the game where it's really about more the competition part instead of unlocking new content and exploring the game, that you have that extra layer of, okay, let's see, who's the best.
Yes.
Okay, so mastery badges, marks of excellence, they described in there, but basically these are things you can get through performance and play. The way mastery badges work in World of Tanks is like in a 30-day window, if you did as good as the top 2% or top 5% or top whatever, I think it works in World of Tanks based on base XP, you get like a little award, a little medal that you can put on your tank that people can see in battle. And so that they're talking about bringing that into World of Tanks or World of Warships. I know they said this was about PvE. I think this is actually Wix. This is a meta thing. I think this is going to take place, as my understanding is, this is for PvP. So these are a meta gameplay mechanic, but they are about the games that you play in PvP. When they said this, we're going to switch over to PvE mode, that's all we have for PvP, that kind of confused me because I knew this was coming, but this is not just for in operations or anything like that. So I think for players who, as Chris just said there, who've reached a certain point of the game and there's like nothing to grind for, this gives you something to go do, where you can grind and try to improve your performance in a ship to get these higher and higher leveled marks of excellence or mastery badges, and then put those, take those with you into your game and go show off that you're a champion in whatever Joe random boat that you're playing that day.
Mastery badges are a count, and marks of excellence are a ship.
Okay, that's the distinction. Yeah. Thank you.
So mastery badges is it's over a month you were top 5% base XP earners, so you get a mastery badge for randoms, and they talk about in single randoms. Excuse me. Marks of excellence are earned by consistently achieving exceptional results in the same ship across multiple battles, right? So that's like battle stars, and that'd be kind of cool if it worked out that way, and if it's actually something you applied to the hull of the ship. But I don't see them doing that. It'll be
Turbo
some,
says it'll be like a flag or something, which is probably most likely. But
yeah,
I think
or a
battle
thing
stars
that-
on the ship would be sick.
yeah, it would be. I
That'd
mean,
be
that's
so cool.
kind of what that is. I don't know. We'll see. This is. I like the content they're talking about here. That at the CC thing we disclosed this, and they were all excited.
To be fair,
so-
they were. Being
Yeah,
there in
I'm
the
sure
room.
like Malta and JTR were super excited to talk about how they were going to earn these things because they do all these things in
Yeah.
the game, and it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
No, those guys definitely, those kinds of folks totally geeked about it. I think for, regular Joes like, you and I, medium players, there's still some stuff to grind here. Certainly focused on players who are trying to, push to get the highest skill bars. That'll definitely be something for players like that, which might be some of you guys in chat or watching on YouTube.
I mean,
For
I already
me,
thought they
I
had
might get
this.
some of the lower reaches ones. I have some of the lower reaches ones on World of Tanks, but I'm terrible at that game, so they're not impossible to achieve.
To me, this is the stuff that exists in the patches where like you tier up those patches by having more higher average damage in a certain ship line,
The emblems
right? Like,
and patches, yeah.
those ones is what I'm. So like to me, this is that, but in a different format, which is like, I don't have all those things, and it's not a thing I try to get.
Right. And the difference
so-
between these and those is that these will be something that people can see on your ship in battle. Now, does
Right.
that still matter? It's going to be unique. Each
It
player's
doesn't to
gonna have
me,
their own
but
vibe.
like, for
Somebody's
somebody
gonna
like
be
JTR
excited
who
about
wants
it,
to be
yeah.
the king of the Colbert, and that only works if people go look at a website outside of the game to go, wow, he's awesome. At least this way, you don't have to leave the game. You can see it in the
You can just
client.
see it in client. Yeah, exactly. That's going to be the advantage, right? And it gives folks, a little carrot on the stick to keep charging for, right? So, if I want to go get real good at Karlsruhe, the ship I referenced earlier, the tier 4 German cruiser, I can go get marks of excellence in the Karlsruhe. I don't know what tiers are going to apply it to, but I do think this is interesting. I think it's going to be varying levels of interesting to different players. World of Tanks has had this for a long time. It's very popular over there. Streamers will do like month-long challenges where they're like, all right, guys, we're going to, to go get my mark of excellence or my mastery badge for this or for that or whatever, whether it, as you say, account or ship or whatever. Yeah, Karlsruhe is a terrible ship, Wiggs. That's all I'm going to say about that. Let's go.
Speaking about the shipping time, because we're speaking about the timeline here. The first one we do plan to have around spring or early summer, and second one summer, early autumn, so somewhere there. You can expect it to have it on production.
Amazing. Can't wait.
We introduced some new customization options last year, specifically the enemy destruction effect, and I know that we will probably continue to add more of them.
Yes, we will. Also, some info about that. Regarding the customization, we do have now permanent camouflages as the opportunity to customize your ship, but it's like the full set, the full ship is covered. And also, we introduced the enemy ship destruction, from which we saw actually a very positive response regarding that. Oh, I can now customize my experience. How do I play a game?
How I see ships.
As the ship is bubbling, yes. And so we saw here opportunity of creating fun and also opportunity to customize your ship more detailed. So that's why we do expect in 2025 in general to deliver, let's call it, assets of customization that will be not only through common thing that you have already seen in the game, but something new as well.
Oh, that sounds very exciting.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
I think
is.
like, it's something, especially after all this time, with World of Warships, being able to customize your ships,
Hold on right
not like in the
there.
entirety, but like,
So like,
Yeah, go ahead.
obviously they don't want to say what this is right now. They're just trying to be general about it. But the exchange of words there, where she's like, yeah, and it's a thing that's like a thing, and we might add a thing, and it's going to be this year. And then he's like, that sounds awesome. Come on. Like, what sounded awesome?
I might
Then
actually
there's
have
a-
to watch that again to fully grok
Like,
that, because I was
good
just kind
Lord.
of letting it
Yeah, it
roll
was
by.
more of that. It was like, look, okay, just say, hey, we're adding more customizations
Yeah.
like camos. Right now, the only customizations you have are camos, flags, and the tea bag, which is, our favorite
The
one,
new
which is
destruction effects.
the
yes.
destruction effects, which is like whatever. And like they're saying, and everybody really liked those, i.e., we sold a bunch of them. And so
To be
now,
fair, I did tell them at the CC summit that I felt like that was just teabagging your enemies,
that is,
which made people laugh, at least the people who were around to hear it.
yeah.
But I provide that feedback directly to them when I found out
Yeah.
about that.
You leaned forward in your awkwardly high-backed red chair, and you
No,
said,
I didn't get to sit in a chair
that-
this nice. Get out of
that's not cool. And then the other guys were like, shut up, we're gonna get a bunch of things we could put on our ships for being rad.
here. No, no.
What do
no.
you know, noob?
To
Take
be
your
fair,
20 viewers and pound sand.
I know. To be fair, people really do like those, and I actually like them too. I just want more control over which ones I see in my game. That's the only thing I want. I want to be able to put one on my ship and not have yours show up on my client if I want. And right now, that's not possible. And that's
So they're saying, yeah, but ultimately, all they're saying here, we're adding some other things. So we've done these explosive effects. We've done, ostensibly you get shell tracers with certain captains, which they have totally botched over the years, by the way. Like, don't even get me started on how Cincinnati had really cool Italian shell tracers that they then turned off and made dull and boring like the rest of them. That stuff's lame. Maybe they'll bring that back and they'll be like, oh yeah, you can do your own colored shell tracers. If you buy this advanced battle pass, the 17th reward step will be shell tracers that shoot meatballs out of your guns or something, but
right.
I just like this explanation from them where they're like, we're going to do a thing that's like a thing and a thing. People like it. And then he's like, yes, everybody want to join. It's like, oh
I would have loved to have seen the pre-edit on this because there might have been more words in there,
Oh, I bet the edit had them saying what it was. And they're like, no, cut that out.
Well,
we don't want to give people hope.
Or the meeting before they did this filming where they said we can't say all of this yet. So I mean, we're going to see some of that. Which this, if you pair this with the other things we're getting that customize your ship mechanically, classified documents, etc. We're also getting some additional visual customizations. We're going to get marks of excellence, which or whatever, which we can put on. Our ships as well. So there's some cool ways to change our ships visually, change our ships. I say cool there with air quotes if you want to see them. You don't have to if you don't want to see the air quotes, but also some ways to customize your ships mechanically. So War Game is just kind of building on that. And when you think about what they're doing here, in addition to new modes where we can play our old ships in new ways, we're also getting new ways to dress up our ships, new mechanics we can apply to ships we already have. So there's a lot of investment in the game around the ships. And that's the theme I'm really taking away from this because, there's only so many more copies of Fletcher we can put in the game, but you can build a lot of game around the Fletcher. And I think that's what they're doing.
I think a lot of this also is like, oh, we actually are talking to people who make tanks now and they're not in a different country.
Yeah, or in some sort of
because a lot of this seems like we're lifting a thing that's been in tanks forever. This to me is like you go into tanks and you're like, I could paint my tank up and put a bunch of decals and stuff on my tank. And that's cool in tanks, you can do that. It's also a little more visible based on how tanks works.
Yeah.
But all these things, these customization things, these obviously marks of excellence and mastery badges are straight up from tanks. Like, yeah, that's like also from like Call of Duty and other games, I'm pretty sure. But and so like some of these things just to me feel like, hey, the fact that we have legends and ships and whatever else in the same building now, we're actually like trying to share more stuff, and that's fine. Like they should do more of these kind of things. Yeah. But not to the detriment that it means they're spending all their time developing these things, and that means premium ships just come with a pale gray camo.
Hard agree from me. I'm tired of the pale gray camos. I don't mind monochrome camos. Like I'm not totally opposed to them, or 2-color camos, but please give me something more than just gray. Oh my goodness. Let's keep rolling.
Actually, special parts of it sounds like a very exciting change, how to be able to make your ship look more like you.
And why I'm speaking about sets specifically, because we also know that there might be sets of some historical battles or historical events, and you can.
Hey, real quick, welcome in Kevy and Raiders. We're watching Waterline and giving it some commentary. Find a chair. We'll keep rolling here.
Connect your fleet, and
everyone go follow Kevy. He's great. It's like hanging out with a cool dude in his garage, and he's got a division of fun people to watch play video games. Highly recommend Kevy. It's an easy recommendation.
Use it.
I love the teaser.
Yes, it would be giving more opportunity to actually recreate something in your mind that you would love to see, like in your port.
So yeah, it's a big change actually, and this is why we'll have to do it step by step.
Yes, it's definitely will be delivered partially. We have a final vision what we want, but it will be done step by step by small pieces. And I would say even the end of the all full feature would be even in 26. So in 25 we will only start because it needs to touch a lot of parts of the game and basically some systems even to be touched.
And I mean, we can maybe talk a little bit about it, since we're here and it's a cozy setting. It's something that we've been working on for a very long time because in the past we were not able to make any such customization changes based on the way the eco works, tied camouflages to ships. So it's great that while it took a long time, it's a long path to get here.
Really long time. Looking at both sides, we know
it's been a painful path, many years. But it's great that now we're getting closer to that.
Yes, and I'm very excited for that because this was a very long way, not in terms of like publicity, but in terms of how we very gradually, step by step, did that.
Okay, that's actually amazing. I learned something new. I know that Stacy knows everything about Event Pass and is willing to share some information.
I can share about it some info, very partially, because first of all, this is a very big decision in terms of, let's say, a vision, that how we do see layers of engagement for different type of players. You may know, and you have seen in production, that we did experiments with event passes and basically turned it on from something which is shipped version, something which is shipped by some events in the version, connecting and all the stuff. And also you may see that we more turned it to more casual players, so it's become easier. And we see actually here an opportunity to, through that type of feature, to introduce midterm goals and to focus more on casual players. Why? Because we want to create a safe ground where if you play, for example, just on weekends, like or once in a month, you will come up and you will have the same progression somewhere where you can still continue. So that's why we're thinking about to actually make it 3 months long, 2 months long, so longer periods than just one version, because version can be 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and it's basically controllable by development cycle rather than the will of the player, how much he wants to spend on it.
So yeah, so when we say that, it's catering a bit more to casual players, there's no downside for a very active player because you will just progress, as you play. But we want to give players a chance who don't play as, consistently, as regularly, to still have that feeling of progress and expand it to like midterm. While if you're like a very active player, there's so many different things that you can interact with, right?
You will run fast through that. And yes, there are all other bunch of different events that are happening all the time in our game that you can stick to if you're active.
Yes.
So it sounds like the way they're talking about it, it sounds like they're not making a longer event pass in terms of stages or content. They're making the same event pass, but they're just going to let it run for a longer period of time. And players like us who play a lot will just knock it out quickly. And then we'll just go do other missions and be a part of other events is what they're saying. But like a casual player can engage in the event pass. So if that's true, if my interpretation is correct, from Wargaming's perspective, they're saying casual players are probably not buying the event pass because they don't play enough. So we would rather get event pass money from those guys once every few months rather than never. And we'll just get a little bit less from our more active base is maybe what I think they're trying to do. Not that it's all, again, there's the money aspect of it too, but there's also the mechanical aspect of it. But I wonder if what that means for them is that they think that if they get every 3 months or something, they get a larger percentage of players to buy the thing, that'll work out better for them. That's interesting.
I'm
trying to read between the lines, right?
It's really interesting watching this, reading the subtitles that YouTube generates, because it really makes them seem marbly mouthed.
Yeah, just because
I'm pretty sure it's because they are. But my takeaway on this sounds to me like are they saying, okay, the event pass now currently is the duration of a patch.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make it easier for people who only play on Saturdays or something, right?
Yep.
We want them to be able to progress through it. They're not, and I think you've hit it on the head. They're not buying it because they're saying, well, I only play
4 days a month, right?
6 days a month. I'm not getting through this thing. I'm not going to give you the 2,500 dubs for that. Well, that's a transcript provided by them. Great googly moogly. Anyway,
it could be either one, Grant.
And so ostensibly, that's interesting to me that's how they're presenting that. And I think you're right. They're saying we're not selling enough of this, right?
Yeah.
And so correct me if I'm wrong, and you may not know, but from reading it sounds like they're saying, well, we're going to make one event pass span multiple patches.
That's what
we're not
going
to worry about it being tied to a patch. And we're going to leave the progression the way it is now so that people who play less can still also finish it. And so the thing that hits my ear as a person who I did 33 stages in this month's event pass out of 20, right? I got 13 extra stages done, which has been a while since they let us do that many extra stages.
Yeah.
We used to be consistent in the old battle pass. We racked up tons of blue boosters in the old battle pass, right? And they took that away. They made it harder. So my guess is what Scott hears here, what Skada hears here is that there won't be extra stages anymore. they're not going to let you and I get this done in a normal amount of time and then get anything else from it. That's going to go away.
Well, or they could exponentially increase, so we get fewer extras, or put some cap on it. But yes, I agree. I think that what it sounds like is you and I we will not grind 75 extra stages.
Yeah, there's no month. There's no month 2 of this where active player gets 75 stages and that many blue boosters, or it just turns into grays and credits or something useless.
Yeah, right? Lower value.
And so that's my takeaway from here is they are willing to sacrifice because they know that you and I or that people of our ilk are going to buy it no matter what.
And we'll play no matter what too.
And we're going to play no matter what. So they're saying, yeah, but we could sell more of these to Saturday guy if we drag it out and make it easier for him to get to the end result.
We should give that guy a name. Can we call him Saturday Jim? You know?
Yeah, I call him Seaman Schmuckatelli.
You do call him Seaman Schmuckatelli.
You're welcome to call him whatever.
Well, you got a bunch of these Saturday Jims dumping their 2,500, 3,500 dubs over here. Yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, they want themselves a G-Nan camo just like the rest of us, and they don't want to have to play all the time. They got a real job. They're in the economy. They ain't got time for this.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Every time we do one of these things, you have to try to dissect it and go, and how does this screw me? I wish I didn't feel that way about these, but that's the
Sorry, you got me with that one. No, well, there's a little bit of that, and then for me, I'm always decoding like, what are they trying to do? Like, how does this help them? And what does it mean for the game? And then that might be like, how does this screw me? How does this change my game, right? From your perspective. Yeah. But like, what does it change for the game for me? And then why are they doing it? Because they're not always doing it because you have to understand their constraints are not just making the game fun, right? Wouldn't it be a wonderful world if we lived in a world where all they had to do was make the game fun? I'll use my favorite example for this. If we lived in a world where people didn't have to make stuff so that it fit into a Connex box so they could put it on a ship so they could ship it across the ocean so they could sell it to you, we would make better stuff. Like IKEA flat pack furniture is not designed to be good furniture. It's designed to go into a shipping container, right? Because it has to. And so when we think about what World of Warships is doing, they're not necessarily just making the best game they can. They're making the best game they can given the constraints that they have. And so I'm always trying to seek for those constraints. My engineering background is asking me to do that constantly. I can't turn it off. And so I'm always trying to decode those pieces. And that's definitely what I'm looking at here is I think they're trying to sell more through volume so that they can distribute more of those things, collect money from more of the player base, even if it's less frequent. Shiva says, IKEA makes good furniture too. I know. I have a lot of great IKEA furniture in my house, Shiva. But the constraints
these
on
high-back
the furniture,
chairs with metal bases clearly are local artisanal chairs.
Artisanal chairs. Yeah. But again, IKEA's furniture is constrained by the fact that it has to go into a shipping container and be shipped across the sea, right? It means they're not building the best thing they possibly could. They're building the best thing they can with their constraints. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't shop at IKEA. Do what makes you feel good. All right. Any other thoughts on this, Skada, or should we hit go?
No.
All right, let's roll.
And it's going to be actually quite a big update, right? To event pass, it's not just the duration.
It's not just the duration, and even though right now I cannot call it directly event pass because it will have different name, and it's very important to understand that it will be different type of naming, different type of, let's say, visual even. But now it's safe to say, to be on the common ground, that this is what we will do with that feature specifically.
Okay, so hopefully this will be perceived as something good, because we're literally changing
How are they screwing me?
Every time they rename it, is that what you said? Yeah.
changing the whole concept.
Yes, we are getting it more for midterm, more for longer for you to engage with. And if you are a casual player, somewhere where you can stick to, like, from patch to patch.
Okay, great. And to the topic of historical stuff. This is very closely tied to meta. Stacey, I will have to ask you more questions.
Okay, it's fine. First of all, I would love to say that we will not only do some meta stuff that we now introduced to the world, we also will keep up on releasing historical ships. And that ships we want to transfer differently. For example, the Blue Hair, we will have that as a dockyard ship, and we want to do a historical dockyard. And also, besides of that,
we will have another historical dockyard
we
after
will,
Blue Hair, right?
We will. Don't spoil, please.
Can we maybe tease a bit? Can we let people guess?
No.
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 Oh, I tried, chat. I tried.
Like, my dear, you are trying to, like,
So, I have them here. I will extract
Yes,
as much as I can.
It's not pre-recorded text. You like basically taking me out of the zone.
But if you think back in terms of when we describe the goals that we have or the path we want to follow, right, with historical content, we saw that it was very popular. We know, our game is about history, right? But last year we had ships like Rodney, we brought Wisconsin, and we want to keep going in that direction also with the events.
And we see positive response of that, and that's why in the events that we do see as main, we will try to keep up more history. Like, for example, you may see the Web Adventure Battle of Leyte Guilford, Web Adventure Battle of Java Sea, it was just an event. But such kind of type of events, we could have put as a main event of the version and wrap around a different bunch of other activities. And for example, Dockyard is one of them, which is good to stick to. And also, we are thinking not only just, do big events, always ground, but even in a small pieces of content, for example, like skins, where we can introduce some history, we would love to do that. As an example, actually, for that blue hair that we spoke about, we will have the special theme skin, not just the simple as we usually have, and it will be more like from the bottom of the ocean, because if we are remembering, the blue hair had some accident, let's call it like this.
We don't talk about it.
Yeah, we don't talk about it.
No, but it's great. So basically the philosophy is...
So from the bottom of the ocean camo she's referring to, that is the sunken Bismarck, the sunken hood camo. Those camos are sick. So I hope they have a cool blue hair camo that looks like that. That'd be rad. That was all I wanted to pause and say.
We try to identify more opportunities where we can bring historical content. We will, of course, still, we're not going to get rid of, players' waifus or anime content.
Because, it's also a pillar of a product, but from different perspective. The point is, of course, we do not refuse from collaborations like Waterline. No, it will be in the game, but in terms of what we do put on the front, it will be more to history-oriented. And it was to say, if we will add something, let's go anime-like, we will try to balance it with something history-like at the same time, for you to choose based on what basically you would love to play. So that's the vision.
Okay, there is a lot of stuff to unwrap here, actually.
Okay,
the most burning question, collaborations. You've told us that the anime girls will stay, and we will maybe get either old ones, maybe new ones, but will we get any new IPs?
This year, we do consider that we don't want to include new IPs in our game, but we can reintroduce the old ones that we do have.
Okay, I know that another adventure is in development. Can you tell us about it?
We do have, actually, based on the topic of history, right, for Battle of Narvik, Dunkirk.
Yes.
We're actually using also the topic of history to...
Yes, of course, because 2025 is full of anniversaries, like history, by coincidence.
80 years everywhere.
Yes, it's 80 years everywhere. And we want basically to have it more in our game, because this is like the best, the thing that we can get. And that's why, yes, you can also observe in the late spring, beginning of summer, the web adventures that you mentioned, the Battle of Narvik and Dunkirk. It will be 2 parts connected adventure, in which, of course, you can expect the same type of event that you get used to see, but we want also, especially in the second part, in Dunkirk one, to introduce new meta gameplay and that's now it gets hard. It will be a new type of gameplay that we will have themed to the Dunkirk, and it purely will be experiment. So we will try to see what kind of other engagement we can provide for the players, and if we will see a positive feedback, we might also return it as a different type of event as well.
Stacey, is it like PvE or PvP activity?
It will be PvE. Yes, because we also want to create an experience that you are exploring something, that you are in the story.
And since it's meta, it means that it's outside of the game?
Yes.
Okay.
Outside of the main battle. Yes, so.
Yeah.
PvE outside of the main battle. This whole section was kind of confusing. They're trying to not talk about what they're trying to talk about, but something Bismarck related, but it's meta, it's outside of the battle, but it's PvE. I don't know. It sounds like there might be some sort of new Bismarck themed event, but I can't read a lot through what they're talking about there.
I thought they were talking about Dunkirk.
They mentioned Dunkirk. And
in the subtitles,
earlier,
they haven't seen anything about Bismarck. It's been all about Dunkirk.
So I thought I heard Bismarck, but yeah, sorry, maybe it was just Dunkirk and I misheard it. But anyway, rolling on.
Side of battles. I guess I finally remembered what I wanted to ask. Since you mentioned dockyards and new ships, I also think it's worth mentioning that the old ships are going back to the game. Specifically, the Zavin will be added in 14.1. And there is one more ship.
I mean, in general, what we can say, right, that First of all, dockyard ships, similar to other ships that have been available through special events like the Kami through Salvage for Victory. We always take a very careful approach because we know that players spend either a lot of time, resources, or potentially money on it to get access to these ships. So we don't just re-release them, after like 3 months, 6 months, but we usually take a different approach. Here we talk about the Seven Provincien and our German, always, German, us as a German, we Germans, we love to have creative names. So this one is one of the nice ZF6.
I think this.
So that's fun. The Seven Provincian ZF6 coming back in dockyards. I think that sounds like they're going to just do those dockyards again. For those of us who got the Golden Frog last time, I don't know if we're going to get a Golden Frog again, but that's something I'll be watching for, as I have both of those ships.
Did they say they're recycling dockyards? I think they just said they're bringing back the ships. I mean, they said D7P comes back in 14.1, which is tomorrow.
That could be. I'm curious what that vehicle is, because they were talking about dockyards and then they shift over.
Did
to
anybody
ship.
see a D7P dockyard on PTS?
No.
So I think they're just bringing the ship back.
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess we'll have to see what that looks like. Obviously, yeah, didn't talk about dockyard for tomorrow, right?
The main part of the presentation is actually done. Now it's time to talk about the features we would like to implement in the future and really want to. But the timeline is a bit murky.
Well, I mean, since we just talked about, the historical aspect of the game, something that we can tease already to a certain degree, right? Is that
I see why you are now here.
In summer, we might have actually like a patch dedicated, right?
Yes,
to history.
We do want to create a special dedicated patch for basically end of World War II. And it will be around middle of August till end of August, beginning of September, somewhere there. There will be a special themed patch dedicated only for this basically big historical stuff that happened. I cannot say a lot of details now because we're a lot of putting effort in that, and especially we put a lot of efforts also for our anniversary.
Ooh.
Yes, and I will tease you a little bit there. We want to deliver you something that you would love to see.
Something special.
Something special.
Very special and very nice.
Well, it's 10-year anniversary, so it's a good time to
It's been
celebrate.
mysterious. Oh my God.
Mysterious.
But yeah, if we, talking about things that might not appear on the horizon that we are talking about right now, like kind of up to midsummer, end of summer, there are of course some things that we have on our list, or we know that our players are asking for a lot, and we would like to address. I'll take maybe something that I know that, especially a lot of the players that are watching will be very happy to hear, that we do plan to actually develop low-tier operations, specifically with the intention to create tutorials so that players have an easier time to learn core mechanics, to get easier path into the game and grasp it faster, or even if there's a player who might be simply more interested in PvE than PvP, that he has a more consistent experience from starting the game to be able to actually make it to operations.
In terms of player path, you're right, even though we are very deeply looking at how players perceive our game, and this is also reflecting into the event path that we are mentioned, and it's mentioned how players start the game, because the game is, again, big, developed a lot, and we want, open step by step that world of warships, actually.
Oh,
yes, and also speaking about high-tier ships.
No, let's keep to low tier for now, because we spoke about low tier operations. It does not end at them. We also plan, and while operations may happen later, there will be balance changes. We plan to implement some targeted balance changes throughout tiers 2 to 5 to significantly improve the fluidity and quality of the gameplay, because we noticed the problem of players falling off a cliff in terms of how hard the gameplay is, because, everyone can go onto their tier 2 cruiser and see their shells fly into space and then go down. We want the gameplay to reflect a bit more closely to what they will see once they go up to tier 5, 6 and above. We will just do some quality of life comfort changes to improve the fluidity of the gameplay.
Okay, but can we now?
So that's kind of interesting. I like that they're thinking about those lower tiers, that they're digging into where the players need help, and players need help when they're new. This is good. And I think that what he just said there, I did not hear about that until just now, where he was talking about low tier ships historically had really slow shells, and so the firing angles and stuff are terrible and awful. It sounds like maybe they're going to improve the velocity and ballistics to be slightly ahistorical, but perhaps to be a little bit more in line with what you're going to see when you get up a few tiers, so that you're ready for that when you get to those tiers. I think that's a positive change for the game. Obviously, be interested to see how it comes through. It could come out poorly, but this focus on low tier content I think is cool. So hopefully that goes well.
think in that previous section when they talked about historical stuff, they said they're going to do a VJ Day event in late summer, right? End of World War II event. So that would be the VJ Day is in August of 45, so it'd be the anniversary for that. So they're going to sell Missouri again there. So if you want Missouri, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to buy Missouri again there because it was, where the Japanese surrender was taken, signed for.
That's the instrument of surrender, is what they call that. They signed that on the deck of that ship. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be an interesting.
That's going to be for sale during that VJ event. I guarantee it. The low tier stuff, that's kind of weird to me. I'm okay with the operations for low tier. That's them conceding that the matchmaker down there is so bad that it ends up being people versus bots anyway. So let's do some low tier operations as a tutorial.
Well, and that's just it could be just more interesting than the gameplay,
which is more narrative and is more compelling. And almost when I hear him saying we need to go down there and because tier 2 shell arcs suck and it's not representative of the game, I feel like they're almost saying, you know what, you're gonna go in tier 1 and you're gonna play some ops and you're gonna come out the other end at tier 4 and then you're gonna play the game. Like it almost feels like they're just because they don't respect that content very much. I kind of hear them saying, yeah, we're going to change how that works down there to make it more representative. But, they don't respect that content. If they cared about it, missions would work down there. But they don't want to do that because they feel like makes people easier to farm things down there for missions or whatever. And so it almost feels like at this point, they're like, it'd be easier for us if the game just started at tier 5. We only want to make new lines that start at tier 8 anyway. Why don't we just do that?
This is definitely them investing in a part of the game that's kind of been left to its own devices for years.
Certainly neglected,
right? Yeah, neglected for years. And so it's, pretty much if they spend any resources working on low tier, I think that's good for the game. If it comes out as you're describing, as, that's the gateway to get into tier 5 or whatever, that's okay for me. I don't have a beef with that at all because
I'm just saying it is now, so might as well just you play through a couple operations and then you're past that.
So the words they put on the website for this section, it's just 1 or 2 sentences here, or 2 or 3 sentences. It says, we're considering introducing operations for low tier ships as a sort of tutorial. These will take place on small maps and use shortened versions of the existing operations, making player progression smoother and preparing them for future battles. It also gives PvE players a way to start their journey in this mode. And I like that last sentence is the one that really resonates with me. If you're a PvE player and you come into World of Warships and you're not allowed to play PvE until you hit tier 7, if that's your mindset,
that's dumb.
That sucks. So this is cool. This lets somebody be a PvE player for their entire World of Warships career, and provides them with content to do so. So that I don't know. I feel like this is positive for the game. Obviously, we'll wait and see how it comes together as always, but good luck to him. I want him to make this work. And then he says, the next line says, low tier ships will receive quality of life balance changes to reflect their respective branches better. So they're going to go back and look at those low tier ships and just make them feel like their branches a little bit more, give them a little flavor, because there's a lack of flavor in the low tiers for sure. There's certain amounts of it with the different nations and things, but could do a little better. Okay, resuming.
I'll get to high tier stuff before that. There's one word, 3 letters.
Let's pretend no, it's maps, of course.
Oh, maps, yes.
We want to address the elephant in the room because we know there's a big demand for new maps. Maybe you can give a bit of,
I will put it like this to be very transparent in why and how. So first of all, we saw and we see the demand, and we also want to create a new map. But in terms of production cycle, in terms of, let's say, effort, we are looking forward really to make it, and we are constantly discussing it. And we are thinking about it maybe closely till the end of 2025 or even in 2026.
We just want to be realistic, right? In terms of expectations, that it's not like we don't want to create new maps, but realistically speaking,
we want. It's just not so simple.
You can expect them at more like towards 2026 than in 2025.
Yes,
right?
It is there, to be honest, more closely. But we are now, when we're shooting this video, have this type of a context, but maybe after some time, the context might be changed and it might become closer or far. It depends.
But it's not all that bleak. Of course, eventually we'll get a new map, but our team has also identified several issues with current maps. And there are actually, before we get to the new map, there are plans to implement some sort of changes to existing ones, especially those where higher tier ships play. This will both let our team get back into the game after so many years without new maps. They will get more experience and a refresher on what they did in the past, and bring us new variety, not necessarily with a new map, but refreshing the old ones.
Okay, cool. I want
So business talk. That's interesting. Basically saying, hey, our team needs to remember how to make new maps. So we're going to work on the old ones. We'll learn and figure out how to do that. And then next year we'll bring you guys a new map. That's what I just heard, which is our team's got to get into the business of map making. And, yeah.
Big yikes. There's kind of, to me, that's kind of a yikes. Like,
that's like as a resource manager, Skada, that's scary
yeah,
when you have a product where you don't
you didn't
have...
hold over.
Yeah.
You didn't hold over any of the guys that moved to with you, and the ones, and I know we've heard internally they've had shakeups there with even some of those that that have left subsequently. But to me, that says, yeah, we actually have to train our current devs on how to make maps for this game, and we're going to do that by tinkering with the existing maps to clean up some problems that we see in them.
And to be fair, like as a resource manager, like, hey, whoa, we didn't keep the people that knew how to do this. And then me as a technical leader, I'm saying, yeah, this is a great way to teach people how to do that, right? We got to get in there and turn the wrenches on the maps we have right now. And in doing so, we'll build up that skill that has atrophied within the company, and we will be able to do the thing that we want to do, which is make new maps.
Yeah, and all the documents in Cyrillic, so we have to translate that. Yeah,
yes. It's a real pickle when somebody can't tell if it's a P or an R or whatever the letters are supposed to be. Yeah, for sure. I think that could be tricksy. So interesting kind of read between the lines thing there from DMC. That's the reality of it. Is it sounds like that's a skill they got to buff up again on the team. But it's good to hear that they're thinking about new maps. I know players constantly are asking for new maps. I've said this before. I never really go, man, I wish I had some new maps, because there's like 40 maps in World of Warships and they're all kind of similar. But I know that players really want new maps and new places to take their ships and to do new types of fights. And so hopefully we get something interesting there.
When we got Seychelles and the other one, like, I mean, I don't know that. Yeah, Faro. I don't know if anybody was like super stoked about those, and it's because ultimately it's like, yeah, they're just. What do you want? Like, get some islands. There's gonna be some water.
I mean, that's been my take on it, right?
I don't want ocean again, like,
right.
I mean, but
and certainly don't want Okinawa ever again, right? But when we talk about new maps and stuff, I don't want to dismiss players who are interested in new environments to fight their ships in. I think. There's a reason players want those, but for me, I feel like that is a lower value bang for buck in terms of changing the way that I experience World of Warships than virtually anything else, right? And again, that's Clyde's opinion, right? So everyone's got a different perspective there, and so
I think from their opinion, it's lower bang for the buck too, because they can't monetize new maps.
Well, and yeah, we got to comment and chat about that very thing here, and but no, agreed, it's difficult to monetize those, and I think they're looking at the same things, just thinking about how they want to turn. Where they want to invest in the game versus this. I think they want to probably make, like, if I was them, I'd probably like make a map a year, right? And be like, hey, everybody, for the anniversary event, we're going to put out a map. And that would be cool. And that would probably be way more maps than they need to make, at least in Clyde's simple.
Well, I mean, they have been making maps for some of this PVE content, right?
That's true. That's true.
The D-Day map, they didn't just use something they had for the D-Day map. Like
for the Star Trek thing, they did say it was a modified other map, but they also
it was modified from previous like space alien stuff.
Yeah, sure. And they also said that they basically never, like, they don't test those for balance nearly to the level they do for randoms battles.
No,
right? The testing is where all that cost is going to come into play.
Yeah,
right?
And so like ultimately, like, I don't know if they've completely atrophied that skill, but and then you've got the added benefit.
I might be reading too much into that. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good point, but I mean, like, then you've got the added benefit too, where like on some of those PVE maps, they didn't really press subs into them, and now on a PvP map, they have to deal with that. It has to have the underwater world and all that junk. So
yeah, which makes the lift a little heavier there for sure. But players are interested in new maps. It sounds like one's coming, but it's going to take a while, and they've got to invest in buffing up the skill on the team there to get that ready for production. So anyway, maps.
To ask about Brawls, I know that we use them as an experimental field too, in a way.
Yes.
Any updates?
Of course. Well, currently, the thing we want to change with Brawls is that the way we add variety to them is the number of players, the number of tiers, and the classes we allow in them. We want to expand that system significantly. We want to add global modifiers. And players who have played various Halloween patches in the past know what it is. Every ship that enters this mode will a modifier will be applied. You want vampirism, you'll have it. You want super speed, hyper speed, you can have it. I can't say it will be that experimental from the start, but we will try different things and make it interesting.
Generally, it will be like real field of experiments, like in a small scale, because also the maps are small. So you will be faster and more fun having at the moment once something global is added on that mode.
Yeah, but I think it's also what a lot of people, players, me as well, enjoyed so much about Brawls, that it is a bit disconnected from, the serious random battles, clan battles, even PvE, that you get to have a more just pure fun-focused experience. And it's great that we actually get to try some crazy stuff.
Yep. So I have another pretty good news for PvE players. As Stacey already mentioned, we want to give you more ways to play the ships that you have, but there is also another thing that will get a similar treatment.
So we are thinking about what we can do with legendary commanders, specifically for
that
PvE,
one.
because
Okay.
right now, legendary commanders do not really make a difference, and apply their skills in PvE. These are the things we can kind of tease and share.
Yes, we can tease because at least we are, have now concept of which we're constantly looking at it, and that's why actually you know about it because we spoke. And the point is that yes, we have such kind of entity in our game, legendary commanders, and they do influence on some modes, and they do not influence on one of the places where we want to focus on in 2025. So yes, we are thinking of putting legendary commanders in a niche of operations. But we are now discussing a lot of tools how to make it. It's definitely our desire, and that's why we don't have selected time slot where we want to implement it. But we are very deeply thinking about it because it would be very cool that your Sensonity can be used not only in ranks or.
And we will have to see how we will actually do it, because PvE is a different playing ground, because we don't have to consider necessarily the balancing factor that we have in PvP driven modes. So more information will follow in terms of how we will actually, is it the same skills? Is it something else?
but
How?
Right?
Can be adapted.
Let's say how. Let's put it in an article way. Like we will tell more info once we will get that, because again, a lot of concepts now are around, and I don't want to give promises which are now actually we are checking what we want to do. But what I can say, addressing what you have said in terms of philosophy, how we are looking on PvE, all of that stuff, is that this is yes a playground where we can give a player different toys and basically have some crazy stuff if he wants to via different tools, and it can be done by legendary commanders, by some other ships. It's only now we're discussing the tools, and that's why when you said I have like list in my mind. So, and we are very deeply discussing what we want to add, and again, it will be partially added through the timeline, because we right now spoke so many stuff about what we want to add in PvE, and it also needs to be first touched. We will look at it, take some feedback from the player base, and then adapt. So yeah.
But again, I mean, this is why in this, setting that we have here, we want to share a bit like where we see certain things going in terms of I'm a PvE player. I might be a player who's more into competitive stuff. I might be a player who's more interested in historical stuff. The kind of priorities and guidelines that we have set for ourselves, where we want the game to go in the future. And I hope that you find this very insightful and, tell us whether you like this format.
Yeah, and actually, yes, will be very, very inspiring to hear the comments about such kind of format, because it's not scripted. And basically what we have now said will be in the internet now. And when I will look at it, looking at some game designer documents, we'll be like, we said actually this, so we have to do it now like this. No, we will have to do this, because the promise is the best important thing that you need to keep on. And,
Oh, she said something about keeping promises. Yeah, it looks like they're getting ready to kind of wrap up here. They're going into this maybe last section. Just real quick, the idea of commander skills working in PvE, that's cool. So looking forward to that. Brawls, I don't really play Brawls, but I know a lot of people do. Brawls have always been a little wacky, a little zany, so they're going to get a little wackier, a little zanier. Skada, I don't think you play Brawls much these days, but you have in the past. Is that something that makes you think about hitting battle on Brawls again?
I
Or no?
played Brawls back in the day when there was ranked Brawls.
Yeah.
When we do like 3v3 ranked Brawls, I liked that because it still worked like ranked. But Brawls in itself, I haven't touched with. Occasionally, you guys are like, we're going to go play Brawls or something. And like, we might do it a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's not a mode that I go to ever.
I don't really gravitate towards it either, but I'm such a weirdo. I just play randoms constantly until
I mean,
metal season.
As far as the legendary commander thing, that's interesting because like you're saying, we're going to add it to so legendary commanders don't do anything in co-op, but they work in ASIMs. And so like you can like proc, Lisboa, you can proc
Halsey and the
Lucians,
boys,
those,
right? All those guys.
well, that's
Sanson.
it. So that's what I was going to say on this, right? Halsey and Yamamoto, you can't, because they have skills that only happen if you get achievements.
Well, yeah.
So the guys like them, where you have to get a
old
Confederate or a
commanders.
Kraken to get their thing to go off, that does not happen in ASIMs. You can't get those achievements there, so you can't get
That's
them
true.
there. And so when they start scratching at this, we want to put them in operations, we want to do this, that, and the other thing. Ones who have things that are like X number of gun hits, yeah, that'll work. Or Kuznetsov, right? I almost died, I get a heal. But those old guys, the ones that have, frankly, skills that they should rework anyway, that's just my take on those two.
Yeah.
I think the game has progressed in a way where it is way easier for legendary commanders' skills to be activated, which is fine by me.
It
those
makes
guys
them
have
more
very,
fun,
those
right?
two have very powerful skills, and they are hard to activate.
They never kick off, whereas the other guys happen more often.
Yeah, I think I've hit Yamamoto's Kraken one once, and it was like a couple weeks ago on stream. Like I was in like
I know
it happened, and I hadn't seen it I had never seen that one. I've had the Halsey one a few times.
It's a
randomly the Confederate one where you get the reload buff, but those are some things that they would have to change, and it sounds like they want to have maybe some tweaks to the skills in PvE modes only.
Yeah.
I would suggest that the balance guy, run DMC there, that they take a look at legendary commander skills across the board and just look at what they're doing with some of those and maybe revise some of those older ones.
Well,
to make them
especially
uniformly work in whatever mode you want to use it in.
Yeah, exactly. And again, maybe there's different PvE skills from your PvE or PvP versus PvE skills. I think that makes sense. They kind of need to be that way, or they should.
You look at,
but I also agree with your idea about rebalancing those old guys, because they were so timid with those guys. They made them so hard to proc.
Yeah, you look at the Dutch guy that's coming out. He's got this crazy ability that goes off every time you do like 40,000 damage.
Yeah, that guy's
and
like, hey, I'm gonna throw a party constantly.
Yeah, it stacks, and it may be changed and stuff, but from what I've seen, it's pretty powerful, and so like
it looks cool.
The idea, there's no reason then you couldn't go back to like Halsey and go, okay, instead of getting a Confederate, if you get every time you notch 50,000 damage on him, you get a little bit of a reload buff. You get a little bit of a reload buff,
and you stack those up.
Or on Yamamoto, instead of getting a Kraken, like you said, you could treat it more like
each kill you get.
Are there a couple of them that have like, if you get 2 kills, you get another set of consumables?
I feel like Cunningham has something kind of like that. Yeah.
There's another one I think that does that too. Anyway, there's ways they could change those. I'm just saying, or you could leave those old things in there, but then add something that worked like more regularly for everybody else.
Yeah, I like the idea of looking those guys over, especially the old ones, and making sure they're kind of up to par with the other ones. Just like ships, right? If the ships are overperforming or underperforming, and we have enough of these commanders now that there's a set of them, and when you have enough, you can start to compare them. And I hope that's something that's on the horizon. Yeah.
And not just them. We've talked about this before too. But hey, revise the seasoned commanders as well.
Yeah.
They did that with the Jutlans, right? They made a tweak there. They did something to them so that they weren't just total trash.
They got buffed when they indirectly changed the captain skills that they're associated with. So they wouldn't really go fix the Jutlans, but the Jutlans got fixed, if that makes sense, right?
Exactly. And but I think there's something to be said for that too. Looking across all the nations, hey, let's make sure there's a couple seasoned commanders for everybody.
For any nation that has more than 25 ships, please give me a seasoned commander, or whatever.
Doing a really good job now of adding legendary commanders more.
I'm loving that. Yeah,
the Dutch one now. There's 2 lines of Dutch ships, so now they're getting one. There's 2 lines of Pan American ships, so we got one there.
Yep.
Keep adding those. I think the players like them. There's the Pan Asian one that got added too. I recently, I put him on the Incheon, right? I was like, you can ride on there. You don't have a cruiser build. And so like, keep adding those, because I think those are cool, and it's a thing to attain. And it adds a benefit to the play that I think is interesting.
Mm-hmm. And when you have those guys with each nation, when you think about how I want to build my ship, right now I want to build my ship. He's got a captain build. He's got upgrades. And if it's a tech tree ship, I have to upgrade the regular modules to their top version. And then I pick some signals. Well, we're about to get the classified documents. And then if you have different captains to choose from, like these are the ways that we customize our build. The word build gets more interesting for more nations when we have more options. And so I'm wholeheartedly 100% right behind you on that one, because I think any ship or a nation that has, I don't know if it's 2 lines or if it's 3 lines, whatever it is, give them one of those captains, because that makes all of the builds in that nation more interesting. It does make balancing and testing and, you know, or maybe monitoring the balance is maybe a better word, because they're already doing that. Monitoring the balance of those countries after you add something like that in is something you're going to have to do, but we're doing that anyway. So like, that's not, it shouldn't be a lot more work. I'm sure it's some amount of more work.
And Wix,
but I love the
Wix in
idea.
chat asking special Commonwealth commander when. I would say when they add another line.
Yeah, give them at least one more line.
They need a destroyer line,
yeah.
which I'm bummed out they're not doing this year anyway, but add the destroyer line for them, and then you do that guy.
Yeah, put them on the list though.
Or gal, I don't know, maybe
start
there's some
figuring it out,
famous
right?
Australian or Canadian admiral lady that they could put in. I don't know.
Who's to say? All right, we got a few minutes left on this. Let's rock.
We are transparent.
Through it here.
And that's why, being transparent, yes, you want to add.
Look, while we are transparent, we want to be very transparent that, of course, everything that we've shared here is work in progress. We want you to understand what we're working on. The reality of game development is that certain things might not work out, might be changed, might be pushed. But this is our intention, and this is what we feel.
The world can go crazy, at the moment.
Yes, it's a crazy world, and we hope that you understand this. I always want to give this disclaimer that intentions, things might change, but these are the things we want to deliver.
And another topic on our agenda, new taxation branches.
Oh my God.
This is we talked about this was usually one of the big topics, right? We had in Waterline videos, and we almost skipped over new ships.
So it will
that
be
might be coming.
for those who stay.
Yes, that's actually great. Like if you stuck around until this point, now you get to hear about.
Come on, it will
the
be on
next
Reddit
branch.
in 5 minutes. Like they will ship this meme of the day. I'm sure that some of our photos will be like, that's what he said about this, and then the mechanics. So it would be definitely, but we can say something.
Sure. A line that will be coming in the near future is the second branch of American destroyers. It will have a good number of ships. Their features will be a slightly higher caliber than is usual for American destroyers because of their signature 127mm gun. They will have access most likely to semi-armored PCA ammunition, and they will have a new, completely unique smoke feature. I will not go into details. That is all I can share for now. But no, they will have a cool, unique smoke. Trust me, it'll be cool.
So are these guys going to be able to call in airstrike smoke? Is that what's going on here? Like, what have they not done that they already have in the bag that we could use? A sap sounds good, I guess. There's drawbacks. Do you want to wait and watch the drawbacks before you react, Skada?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
It also has some drawbacks, so they will have subpar concealment, not very impressive speed, but in general, we expect this to be a fun line for those people who like hybrid and gunboat destroyers. There is another line, however.
Another one.
Yes.
Yes.
Stacey, do you want?
We will make it not as a big announcement, but it will be.
We're not? Not now.
Not now, because we're already like half of the year covered here. And I would love to say that we want to ship also another line after the American destroyers on our birthday, and it will be heavy cruisers.
Heavy or
Heavy, maybe larger.
maybe larger.
Yes, it will be large cruisers. Yes, we don't want to share more details. Yes, first of all, to keep some secrets spicy. Yes,
for the next episode.
Yeah, but maybe for the next episode, if you will like it.
I will just say I'm extremely hyped about it. The ships.
Look at
What they
your
could
eyes.
have.
Oh my God.
And you will just have to stick around and find out what might come after the second branch of USDDC.
I don't know, chat can probably read from your eyes the intention.
Well, you can tell me how well you know me. We will see.
Yeah, I think we've covered this very small, not very important topic that we totally did not miss.
Totally not. It's a great
It's
point
not
to
scripted,
wrap up.
remember.
Exactly, not scripted.
Thank you guys for joining. That was quite enlightening. I hope you guys also enjoyed this episode of our new format.
We share a lot of information, a lot of the upcoming things you will always be able to read ahead of time, before it comes to the game on our dev blogs. So make sure to check them out. You can always get, the latest news there. And otherwise, of course, everything that we discussed here, we will share in detail how this will look like closer to the actual release with dedicated articles, videos, streams.
That's it for today, and hope to see you soon with more updates.
Good job.
All right, so that's the end of that. Chris Santos loves German ships. How is that not German? How is that not German large cruisers?
In my head, I'm thinking, how's it not German in that if it's like, what are you doing? Like, you already have those in like premium format, right?
I know. I wonder
And
if
so,
it's like
like-
Italian or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder. I have a hard time believing that's going to be some kind of German cruiser split. That's going to be some dumb.
The
thing. Like,
reason-
it might be. It'll
the
be like
reason
an
I
8,
think
9,
it's
10,
not
and it'll be like
German-
the French split where they're like really high caliber. But
The reason I think it's not German is because Germany has more ships than almost every other country in the game, right?
yeah.
If you look at the U.S. line, I think the U.S. is the nation that maybe has more tech line ships. We got 3 battleships lines, but we don't have 2 destroyer lines yet. We do have 2 aircraft carrier lines, but I think Germany is next in terms of number of lines and everything. So
Yeah, I could see that heavy cruiser thing being a British line of stuff that's like defense.
yeah,
Even though
could
they already
be-
have 2 cruiser lines, I could see it being, because it'll be an 8, 9, 10 line. Let's not kid
Short
ourselves.
line.
It's
Yeah,
not going to be a
short
real
line.
line. It's not going to be France because they already did that. They gave
Yeah.
them that kind
Can't
of
be
line. It could be
France.
could be Italy.
I know Italy makes me wonder, right?
There's
I
a
don't
lot
have
of it-
any reason to think it's Italy, but
No, there's a lot of Italian premiums and tests that are more like lights, and so I could see them going the other way on that. But then it's also like, like where are they trying to sell to? It's gonna be. Is it gonna be
Pan
a Pan American line?
Yeah, maybe, right? I think Pan American
Sounds
needs
like
destroyers next.
not a battleship line this year though, is what I'm hearing there, right? Because ostensibly it's Dutch cruisers, Dutch lights, Soviet subs, this American DD split, and then some kind of heavy cruiser or large cruiser split.
And they said
So-
that that one would happen around the birthday month, I think. Or did they
Yeah.
say that about the USDDs?
No, they said that's
That's
around
this line, right?
September, October, right?
So
That'd be
there
the last
could
new
be
line
a-
of the year.
Well, there could be if that was September, there could be a December line. Well, no, because if it was new, you're right. They run for a few patches, don't they? But they usually do something like 4 or maybe 5 new lines a year, right? 4 is
Yeah,
pretty
when
common.
they say it's a heavy cruiser, then they say, well, it's large cruiser. That could also be battle cruiser, right? And they consider the German Schlieffen line a battle cruiser split.
They
right?
do.
So it could be some weird battleship light, like that kind of thing too.
Yeah, they did say when they say large cruisers too, that term they started kicking around with the Alaska, the Aegir, the Kronstadt,
Yeah.
like that group of ships. So it's probably gonna be cruisers, but I would guess that they meant cruisers when they said cruisers there. But yeah, great question. I think we'll dig
Yeah,
into
the
that as
stuff
we
about
get
that American DD line,
Seas.
like as soon as they were like, you're like, let's hear what the downsides are, and they're like, they're slow and have bad concealment. And I was just like, ugh,
And I'm like, thanks for
like
nothing.
cool,
A co-
awesome.
Completely new smoke mechanic. Like, what could it possibly be? The only thing I can think of is smoke over there rather than smoke where I am.
Right, not smoke where I am, where I need it because I'm slow.
Yeah.
and have bad concealment. Let's smoke
Well-
over there.
Smoke over there is totally what I'm going to call this, if that's what it is. But I mean, you could lay it down between 2 islands so you could cross safely. Like, I could see that being interesting and fun. You could use it for allies. But yeah, smoke over there is the only thing I can think of what that must be. But I don't know how they would do it. Deployed by geese or helicopters? I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be random airplanes from outer space.
That's what I think, because it's the Dutch Air Force flying in to provide smoke for the Americans, because the Dutch Air Force just teleports wherever it needs to be.
What did Killer Ben say? I love your Killer Ben impersonation. Somebody's
Yeah, I said,
they're-
Killer
they're
Ben,
fucked.
can we get us a Samuel B. Roberts? And then he said, yeah, but how would you put her in? She's going to need all kinds of balancing. I mean, the trouble with Samuel B. Roberts is I think it has something like 2 or 3 guns that are like 100 millimeters or smaller. It launches like half a torpedo and throws a bucket of fish heads in the water. Like, in terms of the armament compared to the ships we're used to, it's just, it realistically doesn't keep up. So they'd have to do some game stuff to make it work. And they
this
could. They could.
Cannon class destroyer escort. Its main armament is 3x3-inch 76 millimeter guns.
There you go. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, right? What a cool ship, though. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna get the gearing Samuel B. Roberts more before you get the John C. Butler one,
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Yeah.
or you might get the Oliver Hazard Perry class frigate version at tier 13 with,
Oh, the Hazard Perry. Yeah.
with
The
missiles.
like 60s or 70s ship or whatever that was. Yeah.
I'll talk to you
You're
tomorrow.
good, man.
Night,
Take
everybody.
care. See you, Skada.